All right, good evening, everyone. We have a work session to get to before the regular town council meeting, but first order of business, we do have an interview to conduct. Joshua Gilman, if you're here, come on up. Josh, you are looking to be appointed to the Economic Development Committee or the Zoning Board of Review. First off, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Good evening, everybody. It's nice to be here.
Thank you for your interest, and if you want to tell us sort of a little more about yourself, why you're interested in being on these boards, and if you've been following it all, sort of what you see as to where they can improve or maybe some challenges, but go ahead.
All right, absolutely. Thank you. Again, appreciate this opportunity. I'm originally from the state of Virginia, born and raised there, and I was lucky enough to find a wife who is a native Rhode Islander. So I moved here with her about 5 years ago and really honestly fell in love with South Kingstown and really South County. And you know, quite honestly, I think it's the charm, the historical value that the town brings, especially with the 300-year anniversary that's here today. So very excited about being part and potentially being part of the committee here. Really, I think my background is very diverse from a business and IT perspective. And from a business development side, I've been a part of over $1 billion in merger and acquisition activity in my short 20 years. And I really feel that I've been participating both in the state of Virginia and remotely here from Rhode Island in a lot of economic development, specifically on the data center side, high technology, and then also vocational education through both of the states. So excited to potentially bring that experience and energy to South Kingstown.
Excellent. Thank you, Josh. Any questions for Josh? Do we have him there?
Yeah, I'm open to any questions or comments you might have.
Well, you certainly have a good background. I think you'd serve well on either board. Do you have a preference? Which one you'd rather be on?
I think the Economic Development Committee was probably the first choice, but happy to help on the zoning side as well. I've got a background in that, especially on the data center and commercial development side.
Excellent. Any other questions for Josh? All right, you're off easy tonight.
All right, good. Thank you very
You
much.
should find out soon. Thank you for your interest. All right, now we're going to walk through the agenda as part of the work session. At this point, I'll turn it over to you, Jim.
Thank you, Council President. We'll go right down to licenses 7. 7A, this is a new license requested by the 300th Anniversary Steering Committee regarding the parade to be held on June 17th, 10 a.m. here in town commemorating the 300th anniversary. 7B is also a new license. This is for a fundraiser for the Hera Gallery and Education Foundation in Wakefield on April 1st, 2023 from 6 to 9 p.m. New license for a fundraiser. C, this is an annual license renewal for a special events permit for the Narrow River Turnaround Swim on June 24th, 2023. D is also an annual request for a permit at the 4th Annual Angry Unicorn Half Marathon to be held on November 12th, 2023. E is a victualling license for a restaurant at 318 Main Street in Wakefield. New license for a new restaurant called Purrs Lane. F is a new license for a victualling license at for a restaurant in at URI in the Emporium. Yes, thank you. G is a new license for a holiday sales license to Island Outfitters, also known as Island Outfitters at 160 Tower Hill Road at the Wakefield Mall. So the rest are consent agenda items. 8, we'll go to 8. That's a public hearing tonight to consider proposed amendments to the Police Department Standing Orders Policy number, it has 220.07, Promotion Transfer Procedure. So there are strict parameters in this town that determine what the police chief can do regarding standing orders, procedures, policies, and so forth. and there is some town council oversight on this that goes way back. And so Chief Moynihan was requesting to do a list of promotional, people going for promotions to the rank of sergeant, lieutenant, and currently there's no provision for him to make this list. So he's coming tonight to explain to you what the specific request for under the standing orders. 9 is communications. There'll be a brief presentation tonight from PBS, which are going to do a upcoming production on our town, South Kingstown. This is from an email that was received November 21st. I spoke to Mrs. Oldham. She's going to give this presentation. I asked her to please keep it brief because we have a long meeting, and she will just go over what this means for PBS in South Kingstown. 9B, Ms. Joanne Esposito, who is the chair of the 300th Anniversary Steering Committee, requests an opportunity for Mr. Eric Swenson to present a wooden plaque in tribute to the town's 5 missing in action servicemen for the March 25th Medal of Honor town dedication. C, communication from Representative Tanzi and Sharon Henderson, Military Recognition Project Chair, once again for the South Kingston 300th Anniversary Steering Committee, requesting a resolution endorsing the General Assembly's proposal of House Bill 5233 to rename state-owned bridges to honor the 3 Congressional Medal of Honor recipients here in this town. I was told that this is the only town in the state that has 3 Medal of Honor recipients, which is a pretty proud achievement. And when you walk in Town Hall, you can see the pictures hanging there, which I think is where the plaque will go. Post office, there's one. Champaign Heights is named after one of our Medal of Honor recipients. Something very proud for this town. D is a letter from Representative Tanzi in support of a request for ARPA funding for the Johnny Cake Center. E is a proposal, a communication received from Jessica Mahor concerning South County Clover's 4-H to create a right to farm town signs to be posted in South Kingstown. The one thing I would recommend on that is that's a pretty broad range, like who will make the signs, what will they look like, where will they go? I think it maybe be referred for further study to the planning department to find out, to make sure that these signs go in the appropriate place, they have the appropriate design, and then maybe run it by the planning board. That's something we'd have to discuss with planning. F, it's an email that was received from a Nigel Sorensen and Ashley Buchanan requesting traffic calming measures on Silver Lake Avenue. Chief Moynihan, who's here tonight, had met with these individuals and had made some inroads on attempting to slow down some of the traffic there. And if you want to get more detail, the chief's here to explain that. G, the Tiverton Town Council is proposing legislation, is a resolution adopted by the Tiverton Town Council proposing legislation for the General Assembly on consideration to allow cities and towns to regulate and license short-term rentals. This, as you read the paper, you watch the news, is a very hot topic in town. Many towns are struggling with short-term rentals, Airbnbs, VRBOs, and I know this town, we will be having some discussion in the near future regarding rental registrations and this type of, the same type of resolution that Tiverton's passing. So I would say this is very applicable to what we're looking at for the near future. There is one typo on that, though, that I'll bring to your attention. I believe it's page 2, they stated that it would be a $200 per bedroom charge, but then in parentheses says $250. We could not find what the right answer was, 200 or 250. We checked everywhere. Go with the higher amount? That was Tiverton, yeah. Then went to 19 communities, we're the only one that spotted that. Is that right, Susan? H, Mr. Doral Beasley requested a public hearing to be held, a community-wide discussion on affordable housing. Another very hot topic in the state and in this town. I, Mr. James O'Neill, requested a resolution to seek amendments to the Rhode Island Cannabis Act, and I would defer to the solicitor to explain, interpret what all that means.
Well, as you know, there's been some frustration about the way DBR has gone about giving out the licenses and what the standards are and what type of guidance, et cetera. And I know there's an effort ongoing in the General Assembly to perhaps clear that up so that DBR has more specific guidelines to follow. I'm sure Mr. O'Neill will be happy to talk to you about this evening.
Under the, thank you, Mike. Under the town manager's report, as we usually do, we'll have an update, a brief update on the school building committee, where we're at, where we were, where we're at, and where we're going. B, a status on the BPAC, Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, master plan. It's really, tonight is just a progress update in a general overview of what, over the past several months, of the conversations, the planning boards weighing in and so forth. It will just, you'll have a brief discussion on the, a proposed master plan, a mission statement, and Director Rabbit would go into the feedback of the planning board that was received. This is going to be, once again, a general overview. It is the goal to have this as an agenda item on the next meeting on February 27th to take action by the town council. 13, new business. A, B, and C are all bids for items that relate to mostly recreation and, like, for example, A is heating an HVAC rooftop unit for the senior center. B is is flooring for the guild and also for EMS. And C is for, behind the guild, there's a retaining wall that needs some demolition and to be rebuilt. So the top three, the director, Terry Murphy, is here to answer any questions on A, B, or C. D is a adoption of the town beach policy for the 2023 season and an amendment of the town schedule of fees. Very minor changes to the fee structure. And once again, Director Murphy's here to explain what those two changes were. E, this is a letter of opposition that the town is being requested to send to CRMC regarding a boating facility with ramps, piers, and floats on 20 Water Street. The harbor master is here tonight, Mr. Stack, to answer any questions on that. And Mike, since this is a legal document, so I don't know if you want to expand on that. Did I put you on the spot?
No, these letters come all the time, and the question is whether or not, CRMC is always taking into consideration what the towns or the community thinks. These letters go out to every community whenever there is an application that is before them, and so what we need to decide here is whether or not we want to let CRMC know if we're objecting to this. It's really becomes a policy decision for the council. Is there going to be someone here tonight to address this? Or?
From the staff? Yes, the harbor master is here.
Fine. So what I would recommend, when we get to that point, let's listen to what the harbor master has to say about why he feels the town should go on record to object.
Thank you. F, this is the award of a contract for the artist regarding the 300th anniversary commemorative art commission, and not with the amount not to exceed $130,000. There is some pictures of what the proposed art is, and there's a scaled model, from what I'm told. that we can show the council and to help you in making your decision on this. G, the tax assessor's here for this one. So this is a request to advertise for order of notice of public hearing to consider amendments to the Town Code of Taxation, property tax exemptions for elderly persons. I met with the tax assessor, and he's supposed to review these exemptions every year to make sure that we're including as many people as possible. One of the things he brought up was that because Social Security cost of living went up substantially this year, I think it was 8.3% or something like that, that it possibly could exclude some people from getting this tax exemption because they just fell out of that tiered income level. So he will address this with you. This is a request to have the public hearing, and then we will discuss at length what the proposal is and if that's what the council wants to do. But he is here tonight as well to answer any questions regarding this. You can see the scale right below that on the agenda. H is a resolution authorized by the town clerk to advertise for order of notice of public hearing on an amendment to the zoning ordinance on cottage community zoning. And the sunset provision was changed by date from March 1st, 2023 to March 1st, 2025. That is the request. So that's what the notice of public hearing would be for. And that's all I have, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Jim. Any questions for the manager at this time? All right, seeing none, we'll take about a 7-minute recess before we start at 7:30.
How you doing?
Matt
Doug.
McCoy.
Doug
My
Brown.
husband Doug.
Nice to meet you, Doug.
Nice to meet you too.
I like your hat.
Thank you. So, just want to represent in anywhere.
I'll sit.
Okay.
Okay, Rory, this meeting's going off the rails. I'm calling it. Calling it, Rory. Hi, Joanne. Yeah, I'll be there. And maybe. Joanne, your March event? The March one? Yeah. It's the, what time of day is that? Oh, I have class then. I'll ask my professor if I can get zoomed in. Oh, I'm on.
All right, welcome everyone. We are going to get things going. It is a little after 7:30 p.m. Today is Monday, February 13th. This is our regularly scheduled town council meeting. I do want to first announce that this is the first council meeting since the passing of our former chief of police, Chief Vespia. And I just want to acknowledge his presence in the community. As 35 years serving as the chief, he was certainly an important person in our community, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that here today. Before we do the Pledge of Allegiance, I just ask that we do a moment of silence in his tribute. So with that, we're going to begin with that, and then we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. On a positive note, we are working on potentially renaming the public safety complex in South Kingstown the Chief Vespia Complex, so we're excited about that. But next order of business on the agenda is the land acknowledgement statement, which I will read. The town of South Kingstown pays homage to the indigenous people and land in which the town is now located, but this acknowledgement serves as a reminder of our ongoing efforts to recognize, honor, reconcile, and partner with the Narragansett tribe whose land and water we benefit from today. Next, we have the roll call. If you would, Susan.
Council President McEntee,
Here.
Council Vice President Marin,
Here.
Councilwoman Bergner. Here. Councilwoman Alley. Here. Councilwoman Rose.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. That moves us to item 5, which is the approval of minutes for previous meetings.
Motion to approve A and B.
Second.
And, yes, A and B.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. That's going to bring us to item 6, the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. It's going to bring us to 7 licenses. A is a resolution granting a special events permit to conduct the South Kingstown 300th Anniversary Parade on Saturday, June 17, 2023, at 10 a.m. to the SK 300th Anniversary Steering Committee, subject to RIDOT and administrative approvals. Application by Teresa Murphy. Terry?
Good evening, council members. You are aware of the parade as one of the many events and programs that are being scheduled throughout this year in celebration of the 300th anniversary. The parade is proposed for Saturday, June 17th at 10 a.m. The committee, the working group who has been working on this has worked very closely with the chief of police and the town manager on a parade route that will work in the best interest of the event and the public safety of the town. So we are very pleased to be able to present the application for permit and to celebrate on June 17th. The ultimate parade route will resemble the same route as the Memorial Day and Veterans Day parade, with a little bit of length added on. Are there any questions?
Excellent. Certainly looking forward to it. Any questions for Terry? I know it's going to be a great event, and I can't wait to it.
Thank you.
So do I hear a motion on this item?
Motion to approve 7A.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. It's going to bring us to item 7B, which is a resolution granting a Class F 19-hour beverage license to Hera Gallery and Education Foundation of Wakefield for the Spring Bash on April 1, 2023, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Application by Sanja Sheklowski. Sanja, welcome.
I am not Sonia. I am Donna Gustafson. I'm the treasurer of Hera Gallery.
Thank you for coming.
Representing tonight Hera. Yeah.
Awesome. You want to tell us a little bit about the event?
Well, it's our second annual Spring Bash, and it coincides with the 401 Gives program. And this license is an alcohol license for a one-time event that night, and it's by the RIDEA group, Rhode Island. I can pull it out if you need me to elaborate who
It's
they
all right.
But
think we're familiar
anyways,
with it,
it's all, they're contributing wine and beer by local crafters, and all of the proceeds of that go to a Johnson & Wales Scholarship Fund for future brewers and whatnot, yeah. But our event is open to the public, and, yeah, it's a fundraising event, but not just for Harry Gallery, for others as well, yeah.
Awesome. I'm sure it'll be a good time.
So
It
how
will
does
be a
one,
good time, yeah.
so how do we get tickets? Are there tickets?
No tickets in
tickets?
this, it's free, open to the public, so you are all invited.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not bad. We look forward to it.
Okay, good.
All right. Do I hear a motion on this item?
Motion to approve item 7B.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. Good luck. I'm sure it'll be a great event. All right, that's going to bring us to item C, a resolution granting a special events permit to conduct a portion of the annual Narrow River Turnaround Swim in South Kingstown on June 24, 2023, from 7:45 a.m. to 11 a.m. to the Narrow River Preservation Association of Saunderstown, subject to the execution of a hold harmless agreement indemnifying the town and receipt of a certificate of insurance naming the town as an additional insured for the event in the amount specified by the Finance Director. Application by Marianne Cronley. Marianne, welcome.
Thank you. I'm the Special Events Coordinator for the Narrow River Preservation Association. This is our 16th annual turnaround swim. It goes from about 9 in the morning, and we're out of there by 11. And I have applied for insurance. I do not have the final permit yet, but the town of South Kingstown is one of the holders of the insurance. And I don't know, that's about it. We get about 140 swimmers and maybe 20 volunteers, and it takes place on the URI Boat Club ramp on Walmsley Lane. So it sort of starts in North Kingstown, but then people swim into South Kingstown, and that's how South Kingstown gets involved. And we hope we can hold the event again. Thank you.
Any questions? All right, do I hear a motion on this item?
Motion to approve 7C.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. Good luck.
Right.
I'm sure it'll be
Thanks so
great.
much.
Next, we have item D, a resolution granting a miscellaneous permit to conduct the 4th Annual Angry Unicorn Half Marathon 5K Road Race on Sunday, November 12, 2023, from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. to Ocean State Multisport of East Providence, subject to the execution of a hold harmless agreement indemnifying the town and receipt of a certificate of insurance naming the town as an additional insured for the event in the amount specified by the Finance Director. I believe the applicant is not present tonight for this one, but we are familiar with the event, so I'm fine approving this license.
We've done this before. Motion to approve item 7D.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. It's going to bring us to item E, a resolution granting a victualling license to Matthew Brown, doing business as Purse Lane of Main Street, subject to submission of a retail sales tax permit and Department of Health approval. Application by Matthew Brown. Matthew, welcome.
Good evening. Thanks for having us. So we're going to be the new tenants in the old Bowl location, if you're familiar with the restaurant that used to be in there, at 318. And we're looking to do, right now we own a food truck that's been located in South Kingstown. We travel around to breweries and stuff throughout the state. The name of that is Butterhead. So we're trying to incorporate our food truck business into this location as well. So we have a home base and a place to operate out of, like, full time, more or less. So that's our plan. We've been tenants in there, getting things moving since January 1st. And yes, if there's any questions
Nice.
as far as...
Hey, this is an opportunity to sort of market your business. Tell us about the offerings, time of operation. Go for it.
Gotcha. Okay, so hours of operation, we're going to shoot from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what we do now, but we do a lot of sandwiches, hand-cut fries, burgers, stuff like that. We try to do a little more on the upscale side of things. So it's not very a turn and burn-esque type of restaurant. We like to focus on local ingredients. We have a ton of connections with farmers in the area. We also use as many companies as close by. Try to stay away from the Cisco's and the PFGs and the larger food groups. We try to stay local as possible, at least in Rhode Island. We're looking at 20 to 25 seats inside. We're also hoping to use the patio, which is pretty much adjacent with Brickley's, which everyone is familiar with, I'm sure, which gets very busy. But we've already been in talk with them. We're hoping that together we can really turn that area into like a highlight on Main Street. I think what we have to offer and what they're already doing, I think it'll be a great partnership in a way. And our landlord, Wayne, owns multiple locations in the same area, and he's really supportive of what we're doing. So, and as far as employees, looking at 10 to 15 employees of local kids, college kids, that we can help just to boost the local economy and yeah, any other questions?
Sounds great. Yep, go ahead.
I'm excited for a burger and a milkshake. I think that
awesome.
makes
Yeah,
perfect marriage there.
Yeah,
Right, on
awesome.
patio. Just curious, your name of the company is Purslane. Any reason for that?
So our first, the Butterhead concept was based off of lettuce, and then this one kind of took a different direction, but also still the same vegetable, leafy green. Is purslane is like an edible weed that grows wild. You can pretty much find it anywhere, but and it was also related to Frida. She's sitting over there. This is my partner. We're co-managing the businesses together, and it was just something from her grandmother that had been passed down.
You can eat purslane. I know I have eaten that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It looks like a weed, but you can eat it.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
All right, sounds like a great idea. Do I hear a motion on this item?
Motion to approve item 7E. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just a suggestion, get in touch with the Chamber of Commerce. They'd be very happy to help you with resources, referrals, and do a grand opening when you're ready.
Oh, totally. Yep. We're actually our food truck is a member now, but once we open, we'll also get attached to that as well.
They'll help promote.
Awesome.
My
Thank you.
favorite food truck.
Thank you. Appreciate
Awesome
that.
food.
Thank you.
Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. Good luck, and I look forward to trying. All right, that's going to move us to item F, a resolution granting a victualling license to Troy RI LLC, doing business as High One, of Fortin Road in Kingston, subject to Department of Health approval. Application by Halil Erkalik. Halil, welcome.
Good evening. This application is for a pizza place on URI's campus. We'll be open 7 days from 11 a.m. till midnight.
Nice.
We will include pizzas, pastas, appetizers, yummy desserts. Please
Excellent.
stop by.
Excellent. All right, any questions for the applicant here? All right, well,
Motion
always
to
love some
approve.
pizza. but-
Go ahead, sorry. Jumping the gun. Go ahead.
Oh, always love some pizza, so
Yeah.
looking forward to
Yeah.
trying as well.
Motion to approve 7F. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Same advice as before. Talk to the Chamber of
Chamber of
Commerce.
Commerce,
They'd
yep.
be happy to help promote you.
Absolutely.
And on a college campus, a pizza place should do great.
Thank you.
Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. Good luck. It's going to bring us to item G, a resolution granting a holiday sales license to Island Outfitters Incorporated, doing business as Island Outfitters of Old Tower Hill Road, Wakefield, application by Jane Fleming. Jane, welcome.
I'm Haley Records, the manager of the store, just to answer any questions.
Awesome. All right, I think we know a little bit about the business, but maybe if you want to just tell us something so the public.
Yeah,
will
we're
know.
a small business located in the Wakefield Mall, just trying to bring some life back to the mall, get things moving again.
Nice. Well, certainly happy to help you here.
All right.
Any other questions?
No, it's good to see you.
Thank you.
All right, do I hear a motion on this item?
Motion to approve item 7G. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. That's going to bring us to item 8, public hearing. A is a public hearing to consider proposed amendments to Police Department standing orders, policy number 220.07, promotional/transfer procedure, as shown in Exhibit 1 attached here too. Chief Moynihan, I want to ask you to come on up.
Now's a good time if anyone didn't want to stay all these.
Before we get into this, if anyone,
It's always awkward when to
Yeah,
leave.
yeah.
If people are here for the licenses, they don't have
yeah.
to stay.
If anyone has shown up strictly for licenses, feel free
It's
to.
always an awkward
exit.
exit. You don't
But
have
if you want to stay, I invite you to stay.
I just feel like there's never a good communication time to tell people, feel free to go. Right? Sorry. Sorry, Chief.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chief. If you just sort of want to brief this for us, walk us through this.
Well, the standing orders are in place, and you know, it's been part of the department, but it really limits our ability to change policies as times change, right? And so before you is our promotional policy that we're requesting. It's a standing order. Since becoming the chief, I sat with our membership of the union, executive committee of the union board, and devised a new policy really to evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of potential employees for promotion. With the new contract that was recently ratified, we have 2 sergeant positions that we will be seeking to fill. And so we're in the process of doing that. Part of it comes into play with these changes that were proposed with the policy. Some of the highlight, some of the policy changes, we're putting a lot more into peer evaluation. We eliminated outside boards. I feel strongly that our own officers know the strengths of their peers, of who should be supervising within the department, as opposed to, and it's really no disrespect to any outside police department, but, you know, a police officer from Warwick or Providence doesn't necessarily know who the best fit in the town of South Kingston is to lead our department. So I feel very confident about it. I'm a strong proponent of peer evaluation. I think we should take more insight from the officers who are working every day and who they work with to get some direction on who they want to work for going forward and be led. So I'm happy to answer any questions specifically about any of the changes that are listed in there.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions by the members?
I don't have any questions. I think I've given this feedback previously, is that people who, under your leadership, really have communicated to me that they enjoy coming to work and they enjoy being part of the department. So I'm happy to support your changes because I think this makes sense and it fits with the way you lead inclusively, but also, and collaboratively. So I think I just wanted to recognize, where people don't realize, you continue to make tremendous changes and people feel valued and enjoy coming to work under you. So
That's good. Thank you for saying that.
You're
Because I enjoy coming to work, so I don't want to be the only one to have that pleasure. So we want to share that.
the boss always likes coming
That's right.
to work. It speaks volume because people say that. So
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Chief, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing, so this time I do want to invite anyone in the public who wishes to speak on this item specifically. I invite you to come on up, and I just ask that you identify yourself, and we'll limit you to 5 minutes. So with that said, first come, first served. Come on up. All right, seeing none, do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, the public hearing is now closed. Do I hear a motion on 8A?
Motion to approve item 8A.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. That's going to move us now to communications. Item 9A is an email dated November 21, 2022, from Abby Oldham, producer, Rhode Island PBS, requesting to give a presentation regarding their upcoming production of an Our Town, South Kingstown program. Abby, if you're here, come on up. Or if anyone is here from PBS to present tonight, I invite you to come on up.
Okay, Joanne.
All right, Jim,
Joanne, maybe?
or Susan, have we heard from Abby or anyone from PBS in regards to this for tonight?
If Joanne is here, we can have.
Okay.
specific-
Joanne, you want to come up on this?
Well, this is for PBS.
Oh, this is
Yeah.
PBS.
She, what?
You can address
All right, yeah, come on up.
She helped with this. Her son.
Good evening. As part of the 300th anniversary, we reached out to PBS, our committee, and we felt that being the 300th anniversary year, why not do South Kingstown in 2023? And it worked out where they had started to think about SK a few years ago. Pandemic came and they had to, put everything on hold. So they said, oh, okay, then this actually might be good. Well, they switched around their calendar so that they want to produce in the spring and have the official screening in September and post it on their TV station in the fall. So it seemed perfect timing, and I'm not sure why she's not here tonight. I just know that we've been in communication with Abby and Jody Masalola, and I understand it's this week, and it's going to be an open forum where the public can come in and give ideas on what they would like to have a story for our town segment.
Excellent. Thank you, Joanne. And that will take place virtually February 15th at
Virtually.
5:30 p.m.?
Yes. And anybody who wants to sign up, the link is on the website, the town's website, and they have to sign up by 3 o'clock is what I understand.
Got
3
it.
o'clock, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Joanne.
Thank you.
All right. I don't know if this one really needs a motion. We could essentially place it on file or just express our endorsement of it.
Make a motion to place item 9A on file.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. It's going to bring us to item 9B, an email dated January 6, 2023, from Joanne Esposito, SK 300th Anniversary Steering Committee, requesting an opportunity for Eric Swanson to present a wooden plaque in tribute to the town's 5 missing in action servicemen for the March 25th Medal of Honor Town dedication. Joanne?
Thank you. This is a very special occasion, and I appreciate you putting this on the agenda tonight. Our 300th Anniversary Committee, on behalf of it, we have several members here tonight, if they could just stand. Because we all want to recognize and present tonight a very special thing from Eric Swanson, a very special plaque. Eric, if you could come up. Eric Swanson is a carpentry teacher at South Kingstown High School. From the initial start, our anniversary is coming up, can you help in any way? He was right there. He built the sign out in front of the town hall. He built the kiosk in front of Main Street to highlight all the anniversary events. He made the sample flower boxes that we can have people buy for the anniversary of South Kingstown. And then when asked for the Medal of Honor town dedication ceremony on March 25th, if he could highlight the 5 missing in action South Kingstown servicemen who were killed or missing during World War II, the Korean War, and he just stepped right up, made this plaque, and we would like to present it tonight on behalf of the 300th Anniversary Steering Committee and Eric Swanson to the town of South Kingstown. We hope to have it displayed in the town hall, and then, of course, displayed March 25th at the Medal of Honor Town dedication ceremony, March 25th, 10 a.m. at the Contemporary Theater. And we just can't thank Eric Swanson enough. We are fortunate tonight to have the daughter of Corporal Curtis Eaton and her husband here tonight. If they could stand and be recognized, they were so delighted. So thank you. We just feel like this is a wonderful thing. Eric, we can't thank you enough on the behalf of all of the 300th Anniversary Committee, and this is just a wonderful occasion.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne.
Thank you so much, Mr. Swanson, and thank you for everything you do for the town, including the Legally Blonde yesterday. You did a great job on that, as always.
Council President, just like to add, Mr. Swanson's son is ready to serve our country. He's a cadet at West Point in his second year, so within a couple of years, he'll be serving our country proudly.
Cool. It's wonderful.
Well, thank you, Joanne, thank you, Eric, and thank you, everyone involved. This is certainly something special, and it came out great. So as to this item, perhaps just an accept it, place on file.
Motion to accept item 9B.
Second, but I'd like to add an amendment. Just
Go for it.
and direct the town staff to thank Mr. Swanson for his contributions to the plaque as well as the 300th anniversary lights outside. Thank him for his contributions.
All right.
Get motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. It's going to bring us to item C, communications from Representative Teresa Tanzi and Sharon Henderson, Military Recognition Project Chair, SK 300th Anniversary Steering Committee, requesting a resolution endorsing the General Assembly's proposal in House Bill H 5233 to name 3 state-owned bridges in South Kingstown in honor of our Congressional Medal of Honor recipients, Sergeant William Babcock, Corporal David Champagne, and Sergeant William Fournier. Teresa, I see you're here. If you want to come up.
Thank you to the members of the Town Council and to the members of the 300 Committee. Sharon Henderson couldn't be here tonight. She's watching on TV, and I just want to thank her for all of her support and, of course, all of the in-depth research that she did around this area. I've sponsored a piece of legislation that would allow the state to give permission to you all to rename these 3 small bridges throughout our town. And I think it really is a wonderful way to acknowledge that they were the sons of South Kingstown and that they fought for a larger cause. I think it's not well understood who these folks are. A lot of people see their names, at least 2 of them, Champagne and Fournier, on different housing authority projects within this town. And I don't think too many people really understand the amount of respect and the amount of courage and what a wonderful contribution that they made on behalf of our nation, and how proud we are as South Kingstown residents, and want to acknowledge that. I think this is just a wonderful opportunity to do so.
Awesome. Thank you, Teresa. I'm certainly happy to get on board and make a resolution supporting this.
Second.
All right.
Can you make a motion?
I can make a motion, right, Mike? All right.
Oh, I've never heard you make a motion, sorry.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you for bringing this forward. I really feel like it is really important because I think the connotation of some of their names obscures their wonderful contributions to our entire country. So I appreciate that you elevate and recognize them. So thank you for doing this, and I'm sure it's likely to pass. I'm hopeful.
I certainly hope so. And again, it was the idea of the 300 committee. I'm merely the person who brings this up through my being a representative. So honestly, all the credit goes to them, and I'm just truly proud to be a part of it in some small way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Sharon Henderson. All right, that's going to bring us to item D, a letter dated February 3, 2023, from Representative Teresa Tanzi in support of requests for American Rescue Plan Act funding by the Johnny Cake Center for Hope and the South Kingstown Housing Authority. Teresa, come on back up.
Thank you. This is something that I wrote. I've been working with the Johnny Cake Center for Hope and the South Kingstown Housing Authority for many years. And we're certainly in need. I think we're all aware of how desperately we need affordable housing. And there's many opportunities within our town to make small investments that can really change lives for the people who live here. I have seen a number of properties within my own neighborhood and throughout this town go up on the market. They were rentals for people who had rented for years. And those people lost their homes because the person who owned the home was trying to make the most of this market. You can't blame them for that, but we as government entities, we have a responsibility to do what we can to maintain this sense of community. I don't want to see any more people leaving our town because they can't afford to stay here. People have made their lives and spent generations growing up here, and by providing supportive housing like the Johnny Cake Center is. This is not only a place where they are going to, lay their heads at night and do their homework, at night. This is also a place where they'll be supported by individuals at the Johnny Cake Center to, help them weather the storm of life. So people who are really at risk in our community. And I just think of all the possibilities of what we could do with this investment in ARPA funds for the future generations of South Kingstown residents. So I'm incredibly hopeful that will be approved, as well as the one for the South Kingstown Housing Authority. We've got a tremendous large piece of property there, and I don't know if any of you have been into any of the homes, between Fournier Estate and Champaign Heights. They deserve lots of attention and are in desperate need of it. So just, asking that the town fund their proposal to investigate. I think it was to hire a consultant to review what options there are. And I hope that little by little we can build new homes out there, new condos, townhouses, whatever you want to refer to them as, but apartments, so that people can move into brand new ones, and then the ones that they just vacated could be rehabbed. So that is my hope, and I appreciate any opportunity you can provide to those two organizations. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Teresa. All right, since we won't be, go ahead.
I just wanted to bring something up because the crossover here with the bridges being named after our Gold Medal recipients and the names on some of the properties. I have had occasion to be in Fournier Estates helping out a family there over the past several weeks. It is deplorable. We should be embarrassed. And I cannot believe that someone with such a distinguished person's name is on this place and it looks the way it does. It's disgusting, and we need to do something about it. It is horrendous.
I agree. I mean, Jess and I have had conversations. The playground there is no playground at Fournier Estates for children who live there to use. It is in pieces, it is unsafe. For us,
It's since been removed since I brought that to the attention of the town manager.
thank you, Jim.
The broken down playground in pieces. I cannot imagine the disrespect that it shows towards those families to not provide their children in a housing development specifically for people with children, to not provide their children with a safe place to be outside. It's negligent and it needs to be fixed.
All right, thank you, Jess. So perhaps we'll strongly factor this into the considerations of when we take up how we want to decide which applications to fund with respect to the ARPA funding for affordable housing.
Yes, there's approximately $800,000 divided, about $375 in social services and about $425 in this type of request that will be coming before the town council. All the applicants will be vetted by the council at a budget hearing for your consideration.
Excellent. Thank you, Jim. So perhaps a motion to provide this to the town manager and his staff and factor it into considerations to come back to us when we take this up.
I would just say a motion to include Teresa's letter in the applications for the ARPA funds that we review on March 7th.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed?
No.
All right, that motion passes. Thank you, Teresa. It's going to bring us to item E, an email dated January 19, 2023 from Jessica Mayhew concerning a proposal by the South County Clovers 4-H Club to create right to farm town signs to be posted in South Kingstown. Jessica, if you're here tonight, I ask you to come on up. Or if any other interested party in this issue is here to speak on behalf of this, I invite you to come on up. All right. Have we heard anything from the applicant, Susan? Jim? No?
So I think this is a very sweet initiative that children are excited about, and it's a way for children to engage in their community. So I'm sad that Jessica's not here because she would be probably quite articulate on the role that she could play with the 4-H club. And, you know, this is her club that she started just a few years ago, and it's really engaging for students and children. So I think we need to support and recognize that this idea came from children and find a way to engage their ideas at least. We probably need to refer this to the planning department so that it works in a cohesive way with any other initiatives that we're planning. So I move that we thank Jessica for this idea and include her in a referral to the planning department.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. That's going to bring us to item F, an email dated January 23, 2023, from Nigel Sorensen and Ashley Buchanan requesting traffic calming measures on Silver Lake Avenue. Nigel or Ashley, if you are here tonight, I invite you to come on up. But I know this matter has already been taken up with the police chief, and they've already had a meeting to this effect to discuss this. So perhaps this item could be referred to the police chief for his continuing efforts to sort of mitigate and deal with this matter.
So moved.
Is this item F? I'm sorry.
Yes. All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second. Sorry.
Right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes. Just in general about traffic calming, I think that we need a larger conversation about it. Last week, for example, I drove on South Road and two different cars passed me, crossed over the double line. I was shocked. It's not the first time that's happened. I feel like we need to address radical driving. I think it was the URI students because I followed them and saw which way they went, but not to characterize them.
All right, police chief?
It's just traffic in general. People are not respectful.
Right, and we've talked about this before. Part of our budget proposal is we are going to propose some traffic calming devices in the form of the digital speed sign, which we found very effective just for us to collect data, but also you know, in other communities that they've used these signs, they've seen a reduction in speed when they're flashing, indicating the speed. Mr. Sorensen, I'll touch on that. You know, when he had reached out through email, I immediately contacted him and had several conversations. We've since deployed our speed sign, our radar, on Silver Lake. You know, again, a lot of times when we do this, we find that the speeds are much, much lower than what's being reported from residents. So I'll give you an example. On Silver Lake, and this is basically just over a 6-day period that the sign's been out there, we've seen approximately 2,300 cars pass through there. The most volume of cars happens in the afternoon. We feel as though most likely it's commuter traffic from the hospital. We're seeing ranges of about 200 and something cars per hour. But the 85th percentile on the speeds come in around 24 and 25 miles an hour. So we don't even see violations for the posted speed limit of 25. You know, obviously we're going to see vehicles that travel higher than those speeds. Before we deployed the speed sign, I put an unmarked vehicle there with a non-uniform member to do surveillance in the area, so it wasn't, because some may say people are seeing the speed signs, so they're slowing down. So the idea with putting an unmarked vehicle out there in a discrete type of surveillance is to kind of observe, and over a 45-minute period, there's roughly 75 vehicles. The highest speed that was observed during that time was 35 miles an hour. So these concerns, we've heard, I've had safety forums, and I welcome calls to the police department. I want to hear from our residents about speeding in the neighborhoods, but really when it comes down to, it's managing the resources that we have. Again, as I've reported, we have roughly 29 police officers to staff our 3 shifts when we talk about investigation, bureau, and the administrative personnel. And that's not really that many officers to really handle this volume of complaints. So I think using technology, the digital speed sign is a very good tool, and we'll be proposing that in our budget in the coming weeks.
Excellent, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you for jumping on that so quickly. I noticed the device, it seemed like within a day or two. So thank you very much for jumping on that. And while I've got the microphone and you're standing there, thank you also for the eulogy that you gave for Chief Vespia.
Good.
All right, thank you.
Great. Thank you.
All right, we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? Anyone opposed? All right, the motion passes. It's going to bring us to item G, a resolution adopted January 23, 2023 by the Tiverton Town Council proposing legislation for General Assembly consideration to allow cities and towns to regulate and license short-term rentals. All right, Jim, you want to just brief us a little bit on this one?
So this has been a very hot topic in the news in the past 6 months to a year. Many towns, I just talked to the solicitor, it's probably about a third of the towns already have passed some type of ordinances and laws that are regulating rentals, short-term rentals in their communities. And Tiverton has asked that this council support seeking the General Assembly come up with some type of license to regulate short-term rentals. On page 2, I talked about it. Page 2, number 2, it says annual license fees not to exceed $200, but then has parentheses $250. We could not get truly an answer from Tiverton what number was accurate, but it's in that range of what the charge could be. On a side note, we have municipal court that is going to, we'll be interviewing for a clerk very soon. We will be advertising for a judge very soon. And this is just one piece of this process that this town is going to attempt to address. A rental registration would be the next step, and then some type of regulation for short-term rentals for this town. This town is facing challenges with the amount of properties that are being bought in residential areas and turned into businesses, and they're being purely rented. And that has a ripple effect for affordable housing, enrollment in schools, and housing values, which go up because now these houses have turned into businesses that are very profitable. So this is all part of a much bigger conversation that we will have within the next couple of months. We will be bringing, the staff will be bringing recommendations and studies, options that the council could consider for to address this issue that is facing South Kingston.
All right, thank you, Jim. Quick question for you, Mike. So, absent the legislature passing something like this or similar to this, we would have to get enabling legislation to allow us, as a town, individual town, to regulate short-term rentals?
So we actually do have we do have the ability to do rental registrations right now under current law. What Tiverton is asking is that they be allowed to actually license these businesses and therefore do things like put a cap on the number of the licenses and put all kinds of different stipulations in the license as to how many individuals, off-street parking, that type of stuff. So the Tiverton legislation would greatly expand and actually turn back over to the local communities. Each community could decide how many, no more than 150, whatever. That's what that's all about. So, but as Jim said, for South Kingstown, this is part of a bigger discussion. My thought for right now is, because we've got to go in incremental steps here. We could do a rental registration ordinance right away. I've already worked on one for South Kingstown. I would advise, for purposes of tonight, let's put this one on file, and then as we work through our own process, let's decide if there are more tools that we want that we'd ask our General Assembly delegation to introduce for us. Those are just my thoughts on it.
All right, thank you, Mike. All right, so what do we think?
Motion to place 9G on file.
All right, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. That's going to bring us to item H, an email dated February 3, 2023 from Doral Beasley, requesting a public hearing be held for a community-wide discussion on affordable housing. Doral, if you're here, I didn't think I saw him here, but he is here. Come on up. Seeing he's not. All right, what do we think? Should we allow Doral to come back at the next meeting to talk about this?
I just want to make a note that during our January 9th meeting, Councilwoman Bergner brought this up and had asked to have a work session related to affordable housing.
Well,
so
about the issue of housing in general.
Right, housing in general.
With the planning board. I do think we need a work session with the planning board. Thank you. I don't know if you had a chance to see the planning board agenda for tomorrow. Work session includes a discussion on mixed use. We want to be collaborating with the planning board, so, and advancing housing in that area, talking about all the issues that we have to deal with. So I don't know when we can have that work session with them, but we should look to put something together. I know we have a lot of meetings, but as Doral says, we talk about it, we don't do anything about it. That's not how I am. I want to do something, so. Jim?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you?
You're good.
Go ahead, you go.
So that is another major topic that we're attempting to address here in town. And a lot of things on the fire right now, but this is a very important one. I have requested from the governor, directly to the governor, speaking to the governor, that I meet with Stephen Pryor to talk to him about this, about what, there's a big pot of money out there right now that the state has to seed money to do some affordable housing. I don't have all the particulars on it. I am on Mr. Pryor, Director Pryor's agenda to speak to him at a meeting in the next couple of weeks, and then I can bring back the results.
I'd like to add 9H to the agenda. Motion to add 9H to the agenda so we can continue for a minute.
Say that again?
I'd like to.
You have to add it. We can
Oh.
just keep talking about
Okay,
what's on there.
so we can have dialogue?
Yes, oh, absolutely.
okay.
Well, I thought maybe you were going to continue. No, you can.
No.
Have dialogue, yes.
It's just that Representative Tanzi, when you said Stephen Pryor and the governor's office came like this, so I didn't know if Teresa had additional information that we could hear. Sorry. That's why I wanted to add it to the agenda, because I wanted to hear what Teresa had to say.
Thank you. And I know that you've been speaking to the secretary, and I have invited him to come to South Kingstown to do a tour. This was his first, this is his second week, so last Monday was his very first week. So I plan on putting that on the schedule and bringing Jim into the tour as well. Representative Fogarty, several weeks ago, had brought the speaker down to do a tour of the South Kingstown Housing Authority, as well as the area around URI. So the legislators are very much engaged in this and ready to support you in any way to get whatever dollars are available. I'll also say that I did attend an event today about the green economy and green jobs, climate jobs, and there is so much funding that is available. So I'll be reaching out to the town manager to discuss what I learned, very exciting things that I learned today. So we've got a lot of opportunities for federal funding, and we've got to act fast. The only two people right now who have spoken to the housing secretary in regard to this funding have been South Kingstown and one other municipality. So you're right on top of it, and I want to thank you for that. And we're going to do everything we can to bring that money here.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right. With respect to this item, do we want to continue it, allow Doral to come back, talk on it?
I think I'd like to see us try to get a date with planning.
I agree.
Jamie Rabbit.
Jamie
On up.
Rabbit, first time up.
I mean, this council has not met with the planning board, and then, so it would be nice.
We want to talk about having a special meeting, a work session with the planning board to just discuss the broad topic of housing. So what do you think can work as far as that?
So
know
I
that they're
think-
busy working through several things
I think the
currently,
question needs to be framed as how much time do you have?
Well,
Because you're talking about a very global subject
right.
and how it affects South Kingstown, how it affects the region, how it affects South County, and how it affects Rhode Island. And I'm not sure you can do that in 20 minutes before a council meeting.
Right, we need.
So I think the discussion is, you know, is there a Saturday morning? We are kind of in the winter months still. Is there a Saturday morning where you can put 2+ hours aside, offer, you know, in an AM scenario to have a discussion? But I think the discussion needs to be framed on some goals, objectives, and what you're trying to accomplish. To Councilwoman Bergner's point, if you just talk for 2 hours, what is the outcome of that discussion? So I think in a work session, as Councilwoman Bergner said, we do have mixed-use development on our work session agenda tomorrow night. In that discussion, I can bring out the importance that Town Council has put on this subject matter and the possibility of, and again, there's 52 Saturdays in a year. They're somewhat precious to everyone, not just your planning director. But I don't know if it's a Thursday evening. I don't know if it's another night during the week. But I think it is more than a 20 to 30-minute discussion.
I absolutely agree. I prefer to try to meet on Mondays because Mondays, we typically, every other Monday, we're here. So it's easier to incorporate that into a routine rather than a Saturday. But I do think that there are a number of policies and things that we need to discuss. I mean, we did the accessory dwelling unit thing, ordinance, and it's going to sunset. Has anyone done anything with that? Like all the cottage zoning is going to get continued another 2 years. How are these policies working? What changes do we need to make? I mean, we all could talk for a long time about why affordable housing is a challenge in South Kingstown, College Town, Prices, Beach Town. We get that. We need to take multiple steps forward that are meaningful. So we just need to have
Correct.
time.
Again, you could begin the conversation before a council meeting and then determine from that conversation, that initial conversation, what the agenda looks like to be further discussed. But again, it's a global topic. There isn't a community in New England or the country who has absolutely figured this out. Whether you're a coastal college community or a suburban area outside of a metro populace, it's not an easy fix. Your land values are high. Your available acreage is limited. I think there are less than 5 pieces of land for sale in South Kingstown right now.
Right.
Cheapest one, I believe, is $410,000. So, it's a challenge. But I think the conversation needs to be held and needs to be continued and broadened.
All right. So,
I think that if we can just maybe break the topic down into more manageable chunks, like Councilwoman Bergner was saying about the accessory dwellings, maybe educating us a little bit about how we could maybe bring that as a possible solution. Or, there are other sort of low-hanging fruit that we could move towards now with, for example, like the the elderly tax easement that we're going to talk about a little bit later tonight, but if we could just maybe break it down into several planning sessions, maybe like a mixed use, sort of educating us all about that. I mean, for me, it would be helpful anyway, if we could, sort of approach it like that.
And again, my understanding of the topic matters. That could take months, or we set aside a time period where there's a 2-hour meeting on a very precise agenda to go through multiple topics in one evening. So again, we work at the pleasure of the council. I will broach the subject matter with the planning board tomorrow evening. I will ask what their preference is. I know we've discussed it, and in some essences, it's their view as doing a breakout session, that everybody's around the table, everybody's at the same elevation. It's an engaging discussion. It may be a facilitated meeting with someone who's actually facilitating the subject matter and the topics, but moving along an agenda so that you can attempt to accomplish something, learn something, and try and get some focus for the future. You heard tonight of the conditions of some of the existing housing that's within the Housing Authority's portfolio. As Mr. Manny said this evening, there are substantial funds that are going to become available from the State of Rhode Island Department of Housing. There's some planning funds available within statewide planning. So there are opportunities, but if we can position ourselves to be best able to react to those opportunities, I think we need to broaden those discussions. And again, to Councilwoman Zally, we can do this over multiple meetings, or we can try and do it in a 2-hour block of time, and we'll provide the pizza.
We don't need pizza.
Or the Danishes in the morning. But again, I value everybody's time. That's why I started out by saying there are 52 Saturdays in the year.
I'm fine with the Monday.
I like Monday.
So I would suggest speaking with the planning board chair, and we can speak to her as well, but trying to figure out what challenges they face, what tools that aren't working, what tools they would like to see, how we can improve and incentivize the creation of housing, but still maintain the town that we love, the community that we love. So we need to, this council has not met with the planning board, so it would just be helpful just for people to begin to see and understand what people's roles are and what good we can come when we collaborate.
When you mention Monday evenings, is that anticipated to be before a council meeting or one of the other Mondays?
The off Monday.
Okay.
Any off Monday.
Okay.
Right, does that sound?
That sounds good.
It works.
All right.
Perfect.
I will deliver that message tomorrow.
All right,
Thank
thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie.
All right, so I guess that sort of takes this up, unless we want to still give Doral the opportunity to speak the next meeting.
He can come anytime and talk.
Okay, all right.
You can just put it on file. Motion to motion to put 9H on file.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. That's going to bring us to item I, an email dated February 8, 2023 from Jim O'Neill requesting a resolution to seek amendments to the Rhode Island Cannabis Act. Jim, come on up.
Jim O'Neill, Matunic. You've guessed by now this is never going to end, as it shouldn't. What I'm trying to do here is, what we have up there right now is a lot of uneven policies that DBR is trying to work around with the regulations. And I've been trying to be proactive on this issue for months now. And we've already witnessed, the $100,000 that we lost with the Pershing folks that wound up in Warwick and then Exeter. And that was something that we did not foresee, could not guess was going to happen, and it did happen. But being proactive might have prevented that. I'm going back to Governor Raimondo back in January in 2020, about 9 months before she went to Washington. And she and the DBR folks recognized that incredible uneven playing field was in place in the cannabis world. Firstly, what they did was no longer take any more applications for growers. There were hundreds of applications. They stopped at the current level is 64, but they did not allow any more applications for licenses to grow after 2019. But going back to what Raimondo did in 2020, she put a bill in, and it didn't get very far, but what she wanted to do was block dispensaries from also growing their own cannabis. The original three, Summit, now Rise, Slater, Greenleaf, now are hybrids. They can sell, dispense, and grow. And what she wanted to do for the next 6, which we've talked about many times, that took place, that lottery on October 29th, 2021, she wanted to block the winning dispensaries there from also owning and, if you will, vertical integration of growing. And the reason for that is, which you also heard from the manager, Mr. Manny, a month or so ago, when he found out going up to DBR with one of our cultivators in town here, they're struggling to survive. Struggling, most of them. And the reason for that is quite obvious here. You've got 3 of those major powers that were licensed in 2014. Big money in Rhode Island got those licenses in most cases. But they can grow and they can dispense, and now they have the recreational. And the 6 new folks have that too, because at the time, Speaker Mattiello and Senate President Ruggiero stopped her effort cold. Never got anywhere, and then there was no following year because she was in Washington. So what we need to do here is protect our growers that we have, but we have 2, and protect the new folks who, if we do have a round of 24 recreational licenses to be offered when DBR can figure out how to do this over the next year, we have to keep some semblance of order and no surprises. Everyone has to know, transparency put aside, we know there's politics involved, but somehow or another, we can't react after the fact and lose, as I mentioned earlier, lose the sweet spot, which is $100,000. So these are all very important, but if you're a business person, you can understand 9 years that the big 3 started in 2014 have had to create loyalty. Look at the business they get to keep. Now these 6 others that we just went through a license 15 months ago, 3 of them are off and running. So, and 3 are growers and dispensaries, recreational. If you've been to visit Exeter, you can see it in action. So if you can grow and if you can dispense and be in the recreational world, you have a huge advantage, huge. And look at the time they've been in business. How do you compete with that unless everybody gets to play by the same rules? So do you ask for a divestiture from some of those companies that are growing and dispensing? Do you ask for maybe a percentage that they must do, like 80%, out to the growers who remain out here struggling? This is what we need to be part of. This is what I'm trying to make you a part of here. We need to be part of what's going to go on up with the legislature and put in this bill saying that really we ought to be part of this because we have found out what not being ahead of the curve has cost us. And it'll kind of end on a couple notes here. I've brought up before to you a number of times. There will be a social equity part of this new plan. And I mentioned to you about 2 months ago that I think it's very important that our zone 5, most of the Washington County cities and towns, that we be part of helping the Narragansett Nation, possibly if they also want to go forward with this, but they should have a right to be considered for that social equity. I can't imagine too many others having that right. And this is really important. I know tonight you're going to be discussing beach passes and beach policy, but this is a business opportunity. The state has recognized this. We're going to wind up with 33 of these recreational dispensing sites by the time it's done. That's in the plan. But think about the Narragansetts. Now, yes, the smoke shop, that was another era, but this is an opportunity for them to jobs, business, investment, capital. And part of the plan at DBR, which they did do right, the reason they are going to have a social equity aspect of this and sort of an ESOP, which I've talked about before, employee-owned, a lot of these huge fees they're collecting, the $500,000 for the big guys here who are doing both, a lot of that money is supposed to help, capital-wise, help social equity folks, ESOPs, to get a start in this. Because the whole idea of the act years ago was diversity around the state, geography diversity around the state, and people diversity around the state. So I think that's very, very important. And I just want us to be up there with the legislation, because we've seen it firsthand when we weren't ahead of the curve, what happened. And $100,000 a year is a lot of money to lose here to Exeter. I'm happy it's in our zone, but we were hoping to get that business over here and have the growers visit us. And it's too bad it didn't happen. So I think this is pretty reasonable that something like this that we need to do and really put this up on the desks of our representatives and our senators up there. And we've got to even this level playing field here, because right now I'm telling you that Rise was just purchased last year by Green Thumb out in Chicago, multi-billion-dollar company. Hello? So now you might understand they've got vertical integration here. They were the first ones to go. Slater right now has a problem. You probably read State Police, Attorney General, that there's some issues with them. Greenleaf had an offer. I don't know where they stand, but just to give you an idea, those are the guys that could get bought out. And we want to make sure that our growers, which are many more of them than there are these dispensaries, that our growers get a fair share of this business, because these guys have put in hundreds of thousands of dollars of money. I mean, if you ever saw the electric bills, I've never seen an electric bill under $5,000 a month for a grower. And you can all go out there in the field and find out yourselves. So we need to protect our businesses here that we have in town and our zone and the state. So any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions for Jim on this?
Jim, have you spoken with the Narragansetts about about pursuing a smoke shop or pursuing a dispensary?
Actually, I have, but only one particular person. But I was hoping, again, that would be a product of our zone, our other cities and towns in our zone, because at least with the smoke shop, as you know, is in Charlestown. Charlestown's part of our Zone 5. And I was hoping that if the DBR does come up with a social equity, one person per zone, that we could, as a team here, suggest that would probably be one of the best opportunities.
And you said that you mentioned like $500,000.
Those are it probably would have to, I don't know if there'd be any help for them, but as I mentioned, the help is coming from the fees that have already been collected from those that can afford it, the real power in the state.
Right.
So there is a part of that policy is some of that fee money is supposed to help with the capital growth, proper buildings, security, et cetera, for eventual dispensaries. And some might just, I can't imagine anyone turning it down, but they also have to earn some money here. So there's got to be a balance between this monopoly power that the big three have, which the 6 who just went through October 29th lottery have. They can do both, the vertical integration here. So that's we need to be part of that. So if you're in the business world, and I think otherwise you understand the uphill battle they have. So.
Thank you, Jim. Any other questions for Jim? Do we have Mayor?
In simplest, your ask is basically the way I understand it, and tell me if I'm misunderstanding. You would like to protect the local growers from being pushed away by national growers, sort of like local versus big box stores, Amazon, Walmart. That's really what you're saying is,
The Walmart syndrome, you're right.
yeah, okay. So that's really what you're asking. I don't disagree with that part. The part of the resolution that sort of makes me feel my integrity's on the line is just the pieces like this author is saying this, and, you know, in the beginning of the resolution, whereas this cultivator, as we learned from the town manager, whereas this piece, whereas the town council has learned through this author, blah, 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 goes on. That part, I feel like it's like not official information that we have, so there's parts of it that I agree with, like, I know people have invested a lot of time to make these local businesses nice in South Salt Pond Pathways, but I don't know if I could support the resolution, but I support what you're asking for, because I think many local people are trying to launch a business, not to be bankrupted by big business. That's what I understand it to be. Am I wrong?
Well, I think the interpretation is wrong.
Okay.
I really think that all the effort we've put in, or I've put in up to this date, I really think it was when Mr. Manny told you what, that meeting he did on September 20th up at DBR, that was a lesson that we all should have learned, and that how the growers, but they didn't go into why the growers are suffering so much that evening. I'm telling you how the growers and why they're growing, which is fact. So if you can't handle fact, there's nothing I can do. We've got the big three. We have the next six, and they can grow and dispense.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 2 of those 6 of the finals still don't have their final licensing. This is 15 months later. There's a Superior Court suit from the Woonsocket Group. There's another one in Foster, and I'm not sure of the third one where that stands, but 3 are already underway. So anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions for Jim while he's right here? All right, any other members have thoughts on this resolution here?
I think, like Councilwoman Bergner, I'm a little concerned about us staying in our lane. I think you've got a point, and you may actually be prophetic about vertical integration. But whether this council can do something about that or not, I'm not sure. You may want to talk to the legislative delegation about getting a bill. But I think that where the state is at with the passage of the cannabis legislation, it's almost inevitable. You're right. There are going to be big players that come in from out of state purchasing, gobbling up, was the way I said it to Deb, gobbling up the smaller generators, the cultivators. But I'm not sure that we're in a position to do something about that.
It won't be the cultivators. It'll be those that have both, who can grow and dispense. And so far, we have 9 that have been approved, so 7 that are really operating right now. So, no, you're not wrong.
That's one stage of it.
Yeah, but I think what's important here, if other cities and towns could see this, and if others could talk to their growers, I just don't know what communications that they have here. I really think a message from the town council saying, hey, we've been through this, it hasn't worked in our favor. What can you do to help us? What can you do to help all the cities and towns here? And I think that's the effort. But just don't want to find out too late. I know.
I'm okay supporting this. I think that I don't see what harm it would do.
You don't see what?
I don't see what harm it would do to support this. It's just kind of sending a message. I think that a lot of the facts in here we know to be true, all of them, right? We've talked about this extensively.
All right, I think a resolution, sort of with the intent behind what you have, Jim, here, definitely signals from us some of our displeasure as to what has transpired over the last few years with respect to, cannabis, cultivation, retail, and medical sales. So I can certainly get behind the intent here. I think maybe this could be fine-tuned a little bit to make this a little more formal, I guess. But also, we do have a representative in the crowd, so at least we have her hearing this, which is good.
everyone wants to stay anonymous.
So I will make a motion to refer this to the town solicitor with the intent of cleaning it up a bit and then getting it out to the other cities and towns in Zone 5.
Send it to the General Assembly delegation?
Yes.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I just want to say, Mr. O'Neill, you've been advocating for months, and I appreciate it. And even if it's not, it needs a little more zhuzhing or whatever. I always appreciate your tenacity and your advocacy, and I don't disagree about the concerns about all of the things that you've been bringing up for 4 months.
I
5 months.
appreciate that. If you've been where I've been over the last few months, you could see that the money that went in to win those first awards by merit or chosen politics versus, it's the lottery was, the attempt for the lottery was to get away from that.
And it's still there.
Kind of, so you see how important this is. And if we're going to have 24 more, and if we hope that we're part of this, you want it to be done right. You just want it to be done right and have a, and also too, especially from the standpoint of minorities here, we have minority cultivators in this zone and in this town, and everyone. We just need to treat everybody fairly. So yes, I don't mind it being fine-tuned, and I would appreciate that. Probably best you not use my dictionary.
Thank you,
Jim, you have shed a lot of light on this stuff, on all of us here, and we do appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
But any other discussion up here?
I just want to say thank you for bringing the resolution forward too, because I think, I've been listening to it the past couple months and really just not knowing how to put it all together, and this really does that and gives us direction. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, so that's a consensus then that we have.
So we have a
We'll
motion
find
and
out
a
right now.
second.
Anyone opposed?
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Hearing none, that passes. Thank you, Jim.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, it's going to bring us now to the town manager's report.
Thank you, Council President. There are 2 items in the town manager's report. I'm going to reverse the order because many people from BPAC are sitting in the crowd. They've been very patient. The first item will be an update on BPAC, where we are and what the plan is over the next couple of weeks. And the second one would be the school building committee, just to briefly talk about the status of where we're at with that as well. But for BPAC, I would just like to say this is a progress update to the council where the staff is. It's a general overview of what's been going on the past several months, a discussion about a master plan, planning board's decision on where, what their opinion was on it, a mission statement, but also more importantly, to finally get it on the agenda, which will be in 2 weeks, to talk more about this. BPAC's been very patient with this. We were hoping to do this several months ago, but as you know, you can see the topics that have come up that just overwhelmed the staff, whether it was the schools were a major one, the municipal court, and so on and so forth. There's really no excuse, but that was the fact that they've been waiting patiently, and finally, within a couple of weeks, we'll have a very serious discussion on the agenda with this on the 27th. So I would ask Director Rabbit and Luke Murray's in here also, give an update on where we're at, why we're at this point, and then we'll turn it over to Mr. Burke I'm sure he has some comment on this. He's never short for words, but thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Just again, given the hour, a brief update of where we are. The Planning Board on September 20th, 2022 did an in-depth review of both the ordinance request and the existing proposed master plan. Based on that conversation and discussion, they had directed staff to include in the report to the town council that they would be recommending that a consultant be hired to do a very traditional bike pedestrian master plan. Internally, as we've discussed that, Rich Bourbonnet's department with public service is also exploring the possibility of whether that plan can be expanded to a complete mobility plan for the entire town. Bike, pedestrian, car, safety, similar to a study that Newport is doing right now in cooperation with RIDOT as well as statewide planning, and both RIDOT and statewide planning participated in the cost to prepare that study. In doing that, we did review both internally the information prepared by BPAC, reviewed the 2020 bike mobility plan prepared by Rhode Island DOT that was also worked on by statewide planning, and we are prepared in the next 2 weeks to do a full review and recommendation and staff support of the planning board's recommendation to council about retaining the services of a consultant. DOT, as you know, has a number of employees, a lot of PEs on their staff, a lot of AICP certified planners with statewide planning. When they did the statewide plan, they did not do it internal. They used 4 consultants, VHB, Alta, Cogent, and PAR Engineering to complete that mobility plan, which is a kind of well-done 99-page document that concluded with a number of public outreach programs also. So again, we'll be prepared to do that in depth in 2 weeks. I don't know if you have any brief questions for me.
Go ahead.
There's a lot, there'll be a lot in 2 weeks, right? So we have also the marijuana, cannabis public hearing, correct?
Does that take place the next meeting, Jamie?
Excuse me?
The recreational marijuana overlay districts?
I believe so.
This is a lot, I can already tell.
Again, we will be submitting our memo to the town manager, who I believe will distribute it to you. So again, we're trying to be clear. There are really 3 questions asked of the council.
Susan, you said there's several public hearings slated for the next meeting?
You asked 3 primary questions, and that was the planning board's take on the bike pedestrian master plan, the adoption of an ordinance or policy, and then the future role of the BPAC. Planning board weighed in on the first 2. The role of the BPAC in the future, the planning board as well as staff feel that's a policy decision to be discussed further by council and BPAC. I don't know if Luke has anything to add.
Thank you, Jamie.
I was just going to address the mission statement portion of that. So I serve as a staff liaison with BPAC, and they have been patient waiting for this agenda item to come forth. It was sent to the solicitor's office. They did comment, but what we did, we communicated with the solicitor's office. They reviewed it, what BPAC had given for legality, but it wasn't really put through the test of policy. And so what do you want them to do? They're an ad hoc committee. They're really advisory to council. And really, in staffing them for over a year now, I find that what has been difficult for them to operate is really having that interaction with council and getting clear direction on what does this council want them to do. The mission sets up a framework, but I've explained to them, and it's very constrictive at times, they're in a certain box, right? The staff doesn't work for any board or commission, especially an ad hoc. An ad hoc really is advisory to council. So what I'd ask when we come back in a couple weeks is really think about what you want BPAC to continue doing, and if you have specific priorities or things that would fit in sort of their structure. And so we'll be presenting what they are proposed, but what you really have to think about is what is their role, and maybe developing a plan and other. And that's all.
All right. Thank you, Luke. Ken, you want to come on up?
Thank you, Council and Town Manager. Just very quickly, I think these gentlemen summarized our perspectives. We're anxious to continue to serve. I do want to recognize what Luke had just mentioned. So for the past year, Luke's been great to work with, Director Rabbit and Director Burbank as well. But there was 4 years preceding that, and we've had through COVID, as best we could, muster up all the support we had needed from former town managers, planning directors, public safety. We have a master plan. It's complete. It was created by content professionals, myself. We have another professional engineer here. We have a registered landscape architect, my former co-chair, and between us, hundreds of years of experience in South Kingstown. So we're really anxious to get the comments from staff and to figure out a path forward. We do not want to be interjecting ourselves into staff work. We simply want to gift this work to the town and then look forward to, as Councilwoman Bergner was talking on South Road, I've been there, Deb, I've seen the speeding, and yes, I've done the same thing. I've sometimes followed people as I go into campus, and yes, there are students, and sometimes there are my neighbors as well. So we intend to bring, I think, an important piece to the puzzle, as the chief was just here, and he's a wonderful addition to the town. He does when he's called upon, the reactionary, he gets out there, investigates, and mitigates. We've done the planning. We've done the other 60, 70%, and we desperately want to get ahead of the curve and start weaving in these philosophies and what we've seen as constraints with Director Bermanet. There isn't a lot of funding for capital projects that are strictly for replacement. He can't do anything other than what his funding allows for. We think we need to have that conversation, start planning for the safety of our residents and our visitors. And specifically, just this past week, Jen had texted me as she went through Matunic. There was another accident, vehicle and pedestrian accident on Route 1. And the person is in serious condition. Throughout the past several years, there's been fatalities in Middlebridge. So we want to get ahead of that curve, and we appreciate your support. I guess we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you,
Thank
Ken.
you.
Thanks, Ken.
All right. Can we wait till comments from interested citizens? It's next. We're almost done with town manager's report. Thank you. Jim?
One of the, I'm not an expert in BPAC, but one thing that I look very closely at is the money we spend on consultants for master plans. One thing I do not want to do is dedicate $100,000 or more to something that's going to collect dust on a shelf. So that's why we're looking for your input. Hear from all the parties, hear from the staff, hear from BPAC, see what's best for the town, and then make a decision on which direction we should go. We do have some funding for this, to do this master plan if it is approved. So there is a chunk of money that falls under public services, and Director Bermanet brought it to our attention that this could be utilized to pay for a master plan if it's all-encompassing regarding bicycles, traffic, roadway safety, safe streets, the whole thing. But that is a policy decision that the council will make when it's presented in a couple of weeks.
All right, thank you, Jim. All right, it's going to move us next to the update on the school building committee.
I'll just bring you up to date real quick. We had as you all know, we had a joint meeting on February 9th with the town council, the school committee, and the school building committee, and we do have another one scheduled on February 23rd. And the major topic of discussion at this last meeting was, presenting the school building committee and the town jointly was, coming up parameters on what this bond could look like, the amount of money, and what the plan was. But I'll turn it over to Luke Murray now to go over what the status is. He's the chair of the school building committee.
Good evening. So obviously, I don't have to review recent events because we were all there, and we know that decisions were not made yet on the budget. That's understood because there's more information needed, and I think the school committee heard that loud and clear. So we are meeting on the 23rd, I believe, right? And we're going to be having a building committee meeting on the 16th this week. It will be brief because we have limited topics. We're at a pause point awaiting those numbers to really see what the project is going to form as. I did want the council to know that I did reach out to the consultant, Phil Conte from Studio Jade, asked him to look further, or reach out to the schools to look further on the pre-K program to get a more refined scope and start scoping out what that square footage would look like at the high school if they wanted to move forward with a CTE blend option. So he did do that. He did receive some feedback, and that is starting to get going, although I don't expect some hard numbers and plans to come forth until early March. So I know there was discussion about a little more refinement on the plans that is occurring in the background while we make decisions.
All right.
Questions?
Thank you, Luke.
So I just have a concern because let me find it. You said that the school committee has heard loud and clear. On January 11th, I think it was, the town manager had sent a request asking 2 specific questions of the superintendent. I thought that was loud and clear, and he didn't have the answers to those questions. So I don't know where, is he invested in this, I guess? I'm wondering, is he invested in this, do you think?
I don't want to render my opinions, right? I'm the building chair, so I'm in the awkward position. We're an advisory group, so I don't want to, with all respect, I don't want to get in the middle of opinions on where I sit as the building chair. I will say that it was said, all right, whether it was heard or not, I'm hopeful. It has been said multiple times about looking at savings on the school side to help pay for the project. I've heard that loud and clear, I can say that.
I mean, I'm looking at the email that was sent to him right now, and it's two questions that we requested that he answer, and he didn't answer the 2 questions. So I'm getting more and more concerned with this project week after week and day after day.
So I thought the reason why we had a special meeting was really for the purpose of figuring out savings, because the big takeaway for the community should be that if we build a school bond, if we have a school project that is $150 million, every tax bill, every person's individual tax bill will go up 9% in 3 years. So it'll go from X plus 9%, and that is above and beyond all other municipal increases. So last year was under 2%, but if you just figure it out, in 3 years, your tax bill could go up 15% unless the school department provides a map of their contribution to the mortgage payment, for lack of any other word. It's really just how they're going to pay the debt service or mortgage payment. And so we just don't have that information, and it's just really hard because it wasn't a regular meeting, it was a special meeting, and that was the whole point of that meeting. And I have concerns about, I don't have any concerns about the need for the facilities. I think every one of us knows there's great need. It's really about how we're going to distribute that increase, and if they're not going to use their savings, they're not compelled to use their savings, it's going to be, we're handing over that to the community, and that we can talk about an elderly tax abatement, we can talk about X and Y. Those things make the community, it becomes more unaffordable. And if you live here, you know we have declining enrollment. 7 out of 10 homes don't have any kids in the district. We are aging as a community. I just have a hard time not having any information. And weeks ago, I was anxious about not meeting the timeline, and that we're asking a professional architect to meet a timeline, and we don't have any idea how we're going to pay for the project. And I just feel like we're having a special meeting hoping that they're going to, again, come with the information that we need. And I don't have confidence that we're going to get there.
And I want to say, too, it's not asking these questions and getting these answers is not simply to put pressure on them to answer our questions. It's because we need this project to happen. This has to happen. It has to happen. And we have to talk to our constituents and tell them, you know, people who don't have kids in the schools might not know the condition of the schools. So they might, why do we need a new high school? You know, but if we can answer their questions, because they have the same questions that we do, then they're going to be more comfortable and accepting of the project. It all kind of goes together. It's not just for our information, it's for everyone else's, so that we can get community support for the project, the whole community, not just the community members whose kids are going to use that high school. We've got to get everyone behind it. It has to happen.
And as I said on Thursday about the tax increases, during the budget hearings and in future meetings, we will hear people say, what can you do? I'm a senior. What can you do? Can you help me? They make more than the 43,000 or whatever it is, but they're paying taxes, and they would say, for what? And then we're looking at a minimum of 9%, not including any municipal increases. Like I said, last year it was 1.9, and we fought really hard to reduce it just 5 cents, and this is going to go up $1 plus. And, you know, it's a lot for some people. So I just want I don't know how to make the schools come forward and be a collaborative partner.
What I can do is take some of this feedback back, right? That's part of our responsibility, is to communicate and to be very crystal clear going into the next meeting what's expected. I will also point back to the memo that was I drafted in early January, iterating the concerns of council from our December 12th meeting. So, and I believe that was outlined, you know, the concerns over financing the project, but we can certainly re-communicate that so it's crystal clear going into the next meeting, so it's hopefully more productive.
Do you think that you could send that letter to every member of the school committee, like outlining the history? Because I'm not quite sure that all 7 members knew that we asked for it at the meeting. They were here, but then 2 subsequent emails, because we spent two and a half hours that night, and at the whole purpose of the meeting, we never even got that information to make a decision. So that's what's hard.
I can certainly draft something, have it out to the school committee with the previous attachment to it.
That works. Thank you, Luke.
Yep.
I'll just point out that a lot of this is good discussion, which we did have at the meeting on February 9th, but it's important to note that the school committee's budget will get presented from the superintendent to the school committee tomorrow, February 14th. So in light of that deadline, I am hopeful that we'll have a little more information, and hopefully that comes to light tomorrow, and then allows us to sort of absorb a little bit from now till the 23rd, and then get a lot of that information explicit on the record for our understanding. We'll see where that goes.
So I thought it was actually due to the town manager. Like, they're meeting tomorrow night in the evening. Right, but they're not, Mr. Manny is supposed to have that budget tomorrow, correct?
Is that correct?
Yes, I've been in email communication with the superintendent. We are meeting on Wednesday as well, on the 15th. But I was emailed today that the budget will be presented to the school committee at 5:30 tomorrow night, and then tonight and tomorrow? Okay, I was told. Okay. So, and then I will receive it after 5:30 on the 14th.
Sounds like a good Valentine's Day present.
It always is, right? Well, it's just a lot.
All right. It's going to bring us now to comments from interested. Oh, you got something?
Oh, yeah, sorry, before I go. Jim, one thing that, I don't know who mentioned, I think Rory mentioned naming the public safety complex after Chief Espia.
Yes.
I think it's a wonderful idea. In the previous council, someone had come forward, I think Barbara Hackey's family had come forward. I know Terry's here, she's nodding. Barbara Hackey, who passed away, had served on the town council for a very long time. They wanted to name the senior center for her, and we referred it, I think, to the solicitor because we didn't have a naming policy. And both are wonderful ideas. I'm 100% for them. I just think that we should have a policy or go back to that, because I think we talked about it. I don't know, Terry, I'm remembering it correctly, right? So, yeah, sure. I just feel like we need to go back to that to have a policy or something. What did we say, Terry?
Mike, we got to add this to the agenda? Mike Ursulo?
Since we're going to have discussion on it, please do. Naming policy.
So moved. Second.
Motion to add naming policy to the agenda.
So moved. Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. It's added. Come on up, Terry.
I want to do it right.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the policy on how to do it. It's first I heard, so I'll hear what
I don't think we
director
have
says.
one, but it was, right.
We don't have a policy, so I thought the policy would be the idea, the concept is given, is presented to the council votes yes or no. I thought that would be the policy, but I could be wrong.
That's a policy decision by the council, but as I recall with the request for naming the senior center, it was that there was not a process or policy in place, and the question then becomes, what is the criteria that the council would abide by or go forward with for deciding to name a building after a particular individual? Does that individual have to be deceased? Does that individual have to have lived in town their whole life? Like, there's a number of different things that could come up, and in the little research that I did on it, there are municipalities that do have policies, naming policies in place. We've struggled with that too at the park level too, when there have been requests, but I can pull up that information and certainly
I
provide
do think there should be something, and the reason is you look at like the University of Rhode Island, right? To
Yes.
have a building named after is a big deal, right? So you want this to be, a lot of thought go into this for the right reasons, so I agree that maybe we'll look at it. But yes, Council President, it is the intention that because of the contribution Chief Vespia did, and I can't think of anyone more than him that did for this town as far as law enforcement, that, would be a good idea, but we need to do it right, so we'll look into it.
I agree. I think Deb's got the right idea that there needs to be a policy first and then consideration of individuals. For what it's worth, and I may just be old, but I have a vague recollection that there was a policy or tradition that we don't name anything after anybody in town. And I'm getting a nod from Susan, so I'm not the only one. And that can change, and that's fine. But I think that's why, we don't have the high school, the elementary schools, the middle schools. Nothing's been named for anyone before. Maybe we need a historian to figure out why. But
Let's call Dale. We do,
I'm more than happy to work with Terry. We'll see, take a look at what's out there and make some recommendations.
yeah, I just don't, when you mentioned the Chief Vespia naming, I remembered Barbara Hackey, and I think it just flew by. So, if we could do that.
Actually, she'd be the person to ask.
Dale would know. Dale will know. But
All right.
that was my thing for the town manager.
We'll look into it, make sure I'll work with the solicitor and make sure this is done right, and then we'll come back with a recommendation.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, it's going to bring us to item 11, comments from interested citizens. At this point, I invite anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to come on up, speak about any issue they like. I just ask that they first identify themselves, and we'll limit you to 5 minutes.
Hi, David Hamill, and I am with the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. When I heard Mr. Rabbit mentioning the consultant, I would just like to point out something about what the BPAC had asked in the June 27th work session. We had asked, there was actually 4 things. One was a comment on the master plan to have the town adopted. The other was to have a green and complete streets ordinance, which is what I want to talk about. The green and complete streets ordinance does not require a consultant. It's clear. It's an ordinance that develops a policy for the town that is a way of thinking about streets, about how people use streets, about how cars use streets. It is a quality of life issue. That's the aspect of the green part. When Mr. Rabbit was up here, he didn't mention green and complete streets, he just said policy. It could have been an oversight. Director Manny has the Complete Streets ordinance for the next town council meeting. You folks had actually directed the staff to come up with an ordinance, and I'm assuming that that's what will happen for the next town council meeting, and that's what will be considered. And I'm sure you have seen the benefit of green and complete streets. A few of the communities in Rhode Island have already adopted an ordinance. The aspect of answering people's questions and concerns, Green and Complete Streets provides that kind of a mechanism. And you probably are aware there is a boatload of money for communities that actually have a way of thinking about at-risk uses of roads. So that would be people, pedestrians, bicyclists, and children going to school. And Green and Complete Streets shows any grant applicant that a community that has this is serious about how they're looking at these issues. It doesn't cost more money. It's just a way of thinking about a particular challenge. An example would be the Old North Road. You've heard the Old North Road piece where people are concerned. Traffic calming is usually important, and law enforcement is very important with that. But no one mentioned during that time that a design issue might help with the Old North Road. And the design issue could be a bump out. We have our professionals on the BPAC who talked about such things. Lastly, if you think about Old Tower Hill Road, that was an example of an aspect of Green and Complete Streets. It did not cost any more money for the state to do that. The people that use that road comment traffic is slower, and it actually has trees in the middle, and actually other crosswalks. So I hope that the concept of having a green and complete streets ordinance is not lost here in the discussion. Thanks. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. All right, anyone else in the audience wish to speak? Just come on up.
Jim O'Neill, Matunic. We need to work on the definition of affordable housing. I've been to some meetings. We've got workforce housing, which seems to overlap with affordable housing, depending on job, income, etc. And another thing that we might need to do, I wish we could get maybe we need a developer from out of state, but I would think that would be so important, a for-profit or a nonprofit, just to figure out, let's see how they use the math and what that would require for an income level for, let's say, a new workforce, police department, teacher, some combination. I think it would be very helpful if the public knew how it worked. It'd be very hard now. South County Commons has got a proposal to Planning Board for 70 units to go in back of the new hotel, 18 of which, 25%, will be but they kept using the word affordable, but then somebody mentioned workforce, and no one, are they going to accept families in there when it's going to be 4 stories? You know, it's just, the mix is incredible. And if we just zero in on what are realistic assumptions here, if it's federal money, there's certain rules with prevailing wage, so on and so forth. But really just see how the system works, either for tax advantages or for profit, might be very helpful for us. Just a thought, but that would take a volunteer, because I'm sure most developers don't want to give away their secrets at the moment. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone else in the audience? You just come on up.
I just want to add my support, Teresa Tanzi, 57 Hillcrest Road, add my support to the work that the BPAC has done. I sat on the committee that created the bicycle mobility plan, along with all of the consultants. We put months into, over a year into creating the state's bicycle mobility plan, fighting very hard to get that funded so that we can funnel the money down so that it'll make it easier for you all to implement the complete green streets, which is in fact law. I think it's really important to recognize that streets are not just built for cars, and we have to acknowledge that people of all abilities and ages use them, and we want to make our town as welcoming for all people, not just those who have cars. And I think it's, I loved when I heard the chief say that they're implementing traffic calming measures, and those aren't just about hiring another person to be in a car with a speed gun. It's also about things that a previous speaker had spoken to about bump outs. It's about design. So as we're going through and redoing any work on any of the streets, the idea of the complete streets is to look at all of those users. So many of them are vulnerable when they're trying to cross a street like Main Street, up on the Tower Hill Road section. And we really want to do everything we can to make it a built environment that supports all of our residents in all of their stages of life. So I just wanted to add that and thank the BPAC for all of the work that they've done. I know how hard they've worked over the years, and this really has been a years-long labor of love for them that they bring forth, and as Ken had said, are gifting it to you. So I hope that many of their recommendations are taken into consideration, and I hope that the state will help to fund them. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa.
Lisa Beth Sanford from Oakdale Street. That's a little loud. Sorry about that. I'm from BPAC also, and I want to thank these wonderful people who've done all this work to create the bicycle and pedestrian plan. But it is really, truly about multimodal usage, and that's why we are hoping that on February 27th, we'll be working towards the Green and Complete Streets ordinance being passed. They've put over 5 years, and as Ken said, more expertise than many consultants. So I just want to thank them for that. The one thing that I've noticed with my short term as being part of BPAC, I've only been there for a year, is just about every town council meeting has something to do with traffic calming, the design of the roads, pedestrians, where pedestrians are, and Green and Complete Streets would answer that. Would look at it, would get the community's input, and look at all the changes. The changes don't have to be big. They can just be restriping in a different way. They don't have to be expensive. It's just rethinking so that this is a more comfortable community for all of us. So with that being said, I'm looking forward to the next meeting. I'm hoping that'll get passed. And thanks, and thank you.
Thank you. Something, Mike?
I just want to place something on the record because several members have talked about the council adopting an ordinance at the next meeting, and that is legally not possible. You certainly can discuss, you can give direction, you can review, but as you all know, in order to adopt an actual ordinance, we have to have a notice of advertisement, a hearing date has to be set, et cetera. So, again, we can discuss at the next meeting, but you are not going to have the ability to actually adopt an ordinance. Just wanted to make that clear to everyone.
Thank you, Mike. All right, anyone else in the audience wish to speak? Everybody just come on up. All right, seeing none, we're going to move on. Anyone? All right, we're going to move on. It's going to bring us to item 11, appointments.
I think that's 12, Rory.
Oh, sorry, that's item 12, yep. Item 12, appointments.
I'll make a motion.
Oh, go ahead. I'd like to make a resolution appointing Joshua Gilman to the Economic Development Committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. It's going to bring us to item 13, new business. A is a resolution authorizing award of bid to Prime Heating and Cooling LLC of Cranston, Rhode Island, for replacement of the HVAC rooftop unit at the senior center, including labor and supplies, in an amount not to exceed $14,960, including contingency, and as further described in a memorandum from the facility superintendent to the town manager dated January 26, 2023.
I move that we, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Approve item 13A.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. It's going to bring us to 13B, a resolution authorizing
Council
award.
President, may I interrupt for just a second? The appointment of Josh Gilman to the Economic Development Committee, you have terms that expire in March 2023 or March 2024. Which do you choose?
The latter.
24?
The letter.
Okay, thank you.
Because then he would only serve a month.
Yeah. All right, 13B is a resolution authorizing an award of bid to Aramsco Incorporated of Paulsboro, New Jersey for vinyl composite tile floor replacement at the EMS North Station in the Neighborhood Guild, including labor and supplies, in an amount not to exceed $13,145, including contingency, and as further described in a memorandum from the facility superintendent to the town manager dated January 26, 2023.
Motion to approve item 13B.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. It's going to bring us to item C, a resolution authorizing an award of bid to Salitro Property Solutions of Chepachet, Rhode Island for the removal and disposal of the Neighborhood Guild backlot retaining wall and construction of a new segmental block retaining wall in an amount not to exceed $41,500, including a $2,000 contingency. And as further described in a memorandum from the Director of Leisure Services to the Town Manager dated January 30, 2023.
Motion to approve 13C.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. Item D is a resolution adopting the town beach policy for the 2023 season, as shown on Exhibit 2, and amending the town schedule of fees, as further described in a memorandum from the Director of Leisure Services to the Town Manager dated February 2, 2023. Terry, welcome. I just ask you if you could sort of...
Welcome back.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Rather. I just ask if you could sort of brief us on this and update us as to the major changes here.
Certainly. As you know, annually, the council approves a policy and the fee schedule for the town beach operation. This year, there are a couple of changes to the fee schedule, very minor. The transferable passes for non-residents is going from $220 to $225, and our storage unit rentals are going from $170 to $175. The rest of the fee schedule remains unchanged for the upcoming season, the beach season. The other important item to note on the policy is the addition of a free beach sticker for any Narragansett tribal members. This was brought up, as you recall, by Councilwoman Rose at the January meeting, I believe. The Rec Commission took it under consideration, and that criteria has been added to the policy. So that is there as well. The beach typically runs as a self-sustained operation. minus the park maintenance component of our Parks Division, which is critical to the operation as well. But keeping these fees affordable is a main focus for the department, but at the same time, we need to be able to hire lifeguards and compete with other communities and make it work all around. So this is what's being proposed this evening to the council.
All right, thank you, Terry. Any questions from members?
I did. So I was contacted by a senior who asked us to consider looking at the fee, the $50 fee, the resident senior fee of $50. So I just feel like I would doing my due diligence to put it out there to all of you that they feel that it's a little high. If you are by a state beach pass, it's $15. It's for a senior, so we're 3 times as expensive. It's just something to consider. I read Terry's memo, and I do appreciate it. It's really hard to compete with the lifeguard staff, and it is expensive, and so I do understand that, but trying to balance that fee, if you want our senior population to buy a beach pass, would it be more of an incentive if it was less? How much less, I have no idea. Just feel like it's you can't compare us to Narragansett because their fees are all over, but we compete with the beach pass at East Mattoonic, so just putting it out there to see how y'all feel.
So that would probably involve a little more study into this. We would consider that, right? As opposed to us just sort of.
We would need to go back and see what the implications of that would be, but I would point out that under item 3, under seasonal passes, there's also the elderly abatement and SNAP recipients.
Right.
So that if a senior qualified for the abatement, elderly abatement in their tax program, that then their fee would be reduced to $25 for a pass.
Right.
So that same population, I understand, Councilwoman Bergner, where you're coming from. It's the people kind of in between that don't really meet that criteria, but we could take a look at it. I will tell you that the 23-24 budget for the town beach, as has been proposed to the town manager, does show some tax dollar support for the program for the first time in about 12 years, because we're trying not to increase fees, but at the same time, wages are going up, maintenance costs are going up, so.
Terry, you may not know this off the top of your head, and that's fine, but do you know what the elderly abatement threshold would be?
It's the same.
Yeah, it's actually isn't it on this agenda?
It's on our agenda for tonight.
It's farther down.
Oh, okay.
I don't, is it 45,000?
So if you.
Got it.
It's, we don't have to make any changes. I just want to put it out there that people do. There are always people who are worried about, this isn't $50, may not be a lot of money for a beach pass. It's $20 more than the East Mattoonic State Pass. I'm just putting it out there that lots of times people do ask, we're retired, can you help us out? So just put it out there as a foil to a $150 million bond or some other thing that we have to do. It does matter. The little bits of money matter, and many people are living on a very fixed income and don't have the ability to just swish around money. So it may not be something that we do for the beach pass, but in general, we need to be much more cognizant that many people in this economy have a lot of expenses that they can't meet just by saying, I can get more money.
All right. I'm pretty comfortable passing this as is. I think that offsetting is a good incentive. It fits within those making under the income 45,000, which corresponds with the tax abatement credit that we will also be taking up at the next meeting.
So I'll make a motion to approve, is it D? Sorry, I'm looking at the exhibit. 13D.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, the motion passes.
Thank you very much.
All right, it's going to bring us to item E, a resolution authorizing the town manager to send a letter to the Coastal Resources Management Council in response to CRMC public notice regarding file number 2022-06-136, objecting to the application for a maintenance assent to construct and maintain a new residential boating facility with ramps, pier, and floats at 20 Water Street, as further described in a memorandum from the Director of Leisure Services to the town manager dated February 6, 2023. I know the harbor master is in attendance. Mike Stack, come on up.
Evening, council members.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for coming. If you just sort of want to walk us through what's going on here.
Absolutely. So as most of you are probably aware, the Waterfront Advisory Commission is advisory to the council. So they will review these applications routinely from the Coastal Resource Management Council, any type of public notice in the coastal zone. And often there's no issues that they see, and so you don't even see or hear about that. In this instance, they've brought forth an issue that they see with the application. In basically, to narrow it down to its basic form of what's going on, and then we can kind of elaborate to what the whole area, what's going on down there, if you like. But the littoral property lines, if you were to make a seaward extension of the land-based property lines, this dock application has a 25-foot extension variance, basically into the neighbor's property line. In this instance, Water Street, which some of you are probably familiar with, some of the history and discussions that have happened in this room with Water Street, the ownership is, for lack of a better description, a little murky, depending on who you talk to. The town classifies it as a private road. So in this instance, there's no abutter that would bring forth an objection to a dock coming across their seaward extension of their property boundaries. And so the members of the Waterfront Advisory Commission felt it was important to note this. And additionally, with the, you've received some petitions in the past about making Water Street a public access point, a designated right-of-way. There is some local use by the Matunic residents of that street, and so they wanted to speak to that as well. So you see that outlined. I'm happy to go line by line for some of the points that we brought forward. But the basic objection is just that it's crossing into what would in essence be somebody else's property.
So, Mike, is it currently deemed a right-of-way, the Water Street entrance into the water?
Water Street, so the town classifies Water Street as a private road. I know you guys have had this discussion recently. There is maintenance done by tradition, or up until this point, there was maintenance done by tradition. There's a street light at the end of Water Street, right on the water, on the pole. I don't have the ownership of that, but that's been brought forth by some people as why would there be a street light at the end of a private street. So the short answer is it's a private road. There'll be members of the public who will contest that fact, but the town classifies it as a private road.
Mike, I got a question for you. By implication of people using it, under the belief that it is a public access?
Yeah, that's exactly the point. If they can petition CRMC to establish this as a public right-of-way based upon the historical use. So there's that issue, what happens if we really do want to make this a public right-of-way at some point in the future? If this dock is impinging, it's going to cause a problem, obviously. Littoral rights are the rights that a property owner has in front of his or her, it's a line in front of his or her property in terms of the water that they get to use. Because anyone who has waterfront property, in the context of, if you're on a river, they're called riparian rights, but it's the same concept. 25 feet is, as the Waterfront Advisory Commission is recommending to you, that's a lot. And that's why, basically, their suggestion in this particular case that you go on record as a council saying, this goes a bit too far, we object. That's what they're asking the council to do. And you have every right as a council, as I said earlier in the pre-session, these type of letters go to a lot of towns whenever there are these waterfront developments, and that's why it's in front of you, but the policy decision is yours to make.
I don't know if you were given a copy of the plans. I'm happy to pass this, but there's a superimposed picture of what the dock would look like through the littoral boundaries. If you guys want to take a look at that, you're more than welcome to.
So I would like to support the recommendation by the Waterfront Advisory Committee. I'd also like to look into, can the town designate that as a public right-of-way, or does that have to go through?
You need to go through CRMC.
Okay. I think I'd like to explore that.
Agreed.
I can provide you a little more context on that if you like. This was brought up in the memo. Those points are mentioned, that there's been petitions both to the town and CRMC to designate this as a public right-of-way. CRMC received the petitions as of January 5th. When I checked with them, their response was that they are aware of the matter, but the right-of-way subcommittee has not initiated an investigation into the potential designation of Water Street as a public right-of-way at this time.
How do we get them moving on that?
CRMC is difficult to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
But it's succinctly, we actually had this, you folks supported a resolution placing communication, which we've since received back from CRMC. The manager's office has, dealing exactly with some of these issues. There's literally very limited response when there's any sort of issues brought up relating to CRMC's.
Why?
I'd be more than happy to send a letter. Their legal counsel is Anthony DeSisto. So I'll just send a follow-up letter on my stationery asking if this could be placed on the subcommittee's agenda sooner rather than later.
Great.
Thank you. Why are they not responsive? Just out of curiosity, like how do they get to not respond?
Well, it's not so much that they don't respond, is that their responses don't provide a lot of substantive material, I guess is a good way to put it. So there's some frustration with processes with CRMC and also decisions that they provide.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. Do we have a motion yet? All right, we have a motion.
You got a motion by.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion?
Does it include Mike's?
I'll just go ahead and.
Okay. Okay.
You'll be copied on.
Thank you.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
All right, that's going to move us to item F, resolution authorizing award of contract to Peter Diepenbrock of Jamestown, Rhode Island, to commission a public art project to commemorate the town's 300th anniversary in 2023, as specified in a proposal dated January 6, 2023, in an amount not to exceed $130,000, and as further described in a memorandum from the
Again.
Leisure Services Director to the Town Manager, dated February 7, 2023. Terry, welcome. And I know Ken wants to talk on this as well, I believe.
Thank you. Yes, if you don't mind, I'll just set the stage.
Okay.
We're excited to be here to present this particular recommendation to the council this evening. Just as a little background information, the 300th Anniversary Committee applied for and received a grant from Rhode Island Commerce. It's called a placemaking grant in the amount of $150,000. And with that, it was for a proposed public art commemorative project for the 300th anniversary. In that time span from when the grant was awarded, a working committee was set up to be able to start that process. There were public meetings held in order to vet the artists that submitted their qualifications. We had a number of meetings on this. There were advertisements. What I would like to do is just recognize the review committee for vetting the artists, and it was made up of 8 members. Jen Ferry, who is the executive director of the South County Art Association, Ria Del Rosario, who's the art director for Access to Art at the Parks and Recreation Department, Jen Judge, who is here this evening and is a professional landscape architect with Gravelly Hill Design Group, Joanne Esposito, who is the chair of the 300th Anniversary Committee, Ken Burke, who I will be turning the microphone over to, Roland Fiore, who is also on the steering committee, Brian Wagner, who is a senior planner and designated from the Office of the Town Manager to be on the committee, and myself were on the committee. We went through the process, the procurement process in terms of advertising for qualifications. We received 7. Of the 7, we went back out to 5 and said, please present us a proposal. 1 vendor dropped out, that left 4. Those details are in the memorandum. What I'd like to do is have Ken come up and give a brief description of the 4 proposals and the recommendation of the committee. Ken Burke?
Thanks, Terry. And on my I Love South Kingstown tour, this is an amazing group to work with, and it's time limited. So very quickly, following up on Terry's comments, we had amassed a wonderful review committee of professionals, artists, and after we had gone through this 2-step process, we were able to host a day-long interview process with the artists. And I can say that all of them, all the 4 artists, had something to bring to the table. But we really were aspirational in what we wanted to achieve for this 300th celebration. And we've been meeting Joanne for about 15 months, 14, 15 months, and really challenge ourselves as to what do we want to think about, what do we want to celebrate. And there's a lot of strong connections to the indigenous populations in Narragansetts in South County, the mill history, war veterans, so on and so forth. And it became apparent that as about 10 years ago, the Village Green had been renovated. It had a location, an elevated landscape bed. I call it a turret, and Jen corrects me all the time. But it's for a future piece of artwork. So we had worked very closely with the rec department to screen that area to ensure that we had something that was appropriate for the playground area that reflected the historical buildings in the surrounding areas. One of the proposals, very colorful, a wonderful attempt at color from this group called Newhouse. Unfortunately, we felt in a playground setting it was probably not appropriate, and it was great that we had Brian Wagner there. Not only is he a planner, but he's also got his law degree, so he confirmed our concerns there. We had another proposal that looked at elements of a mill setting. A very interesting proposal, however, was very linear in terms of not speaking to the indigenous populations and the expanse of what we think South Kingstown means. Yet another proposal from SVI Gals, very interesting and colorful presentation, but right at the ground level, it looked very climbable. We all wanted to climb through the paper and start climbing it, and we knew that that was not our end game. Now to our final recommendation, which has been, as Terry had mentioned, vetted with our art selection subcommittee, presented to the 300th committee, presented to the rec board. This proposal from Peter Divenbrock is called Ostara, and it is a whimsical, aspirational caricature of a rabbit that is kind of reaching for the sky. It is a sign of fertility, and speaking with members from the Narragansett tribe, the rabbit, or they call the Weetuck, also has a place in folklore. And we felt, along with the direction of the artist, that it provided a very interesting juxtaposition between the Weaver Monument across the street in front of the library, the neighborhood guild, in the mills across the street. It kind of tied everything together in terms of the use of that space. And we really weren't thinking about it, but the year of our incorporation, and this year, our 300th celebration, is the year of the rabbit. And Peter had tripped over that, and we were all kind of dumbstruck when we started talking about that. Peter went on to describe the actual artwork itself. This is a almost 13-foot tall stainless steel sculpture, and it is composed of straps of stainless steel that are heat treated to a first echelon of heat, where you get a gold sheen on the outside surface. Very resistant to any corrosion, very easy to maintain. The structure itself, again, is intended to be whimsical. It's an exaggeration of a rabbit, so you have to think about it a little bit. When you drive by, I think most kids would get it and understand. And there's actually a Narragansett story about the rabbit, the folklore of how a rabbit came to get its shape. So as we had this elongated discussion with the artist, we started to understand how we could adorn the perimeter of the base of the sculpture commemorating the 300th anniversary, or perhaps have a plaque or a QR code. I think Brian Wagner had suggested that, where we could tie to that Native American story and really make this a meeting place, something of significance that stands out from all directions on Kingstown Road as well as Columbia Street. We're really happy to present this to you. It is an amazing piece of artwork, and we very humbly would like your endorsement on this specific selection.
All right. Thank you, Ken. Certainly creative piece of artwork here, and I think it'll fit great within the Village Green, so.
I really liked the third one, but I agree, my son would be at the top of that in like 3.5 seconds.
So I actually thought, I didn't actually think that this one was the chosen one, because I read through them all, and it has no, like, description, and I read the woven one, and I really liked the woven one. So, I don't know. I definitely preferred number 3, woven, because I liked the way that it did the interlocking fishing nets, talking about fishing, textile making, and farming over the 3 centuries. I kind of really thought that nailed it for me, because we talk about the land acknowledgement statement about recognizing the land and the water that we benefit from. It just, I never thought we'd have a rabbit.
I think the story behind it is kind of cool. The indigenous history and the folklore, and I like it.
I like how it incorporates everything. I like the Native American aspect to it.
What is the size of this? Because I also see this as something that my child would definitely climb.
So again, this is very large. That existing, or this mock-up here, that's the size of the existing landscape bed. So that's just a little over, just around 2 foot tall. So we're in active, we are soon to be in active discussions about how to protect that perimeter. The actual base needs to be further refined so that that's not climbable. You know, if that can be 3-4 foot out of reach, surrounded by Rose rugosa or something that's not kind for people to try to get up into, I mean, that would be the
something prickly.
Yes. And again, the top is about, it's just about 13 foot tall. Very large.
All right. Thank you, Ken. So what do we think? I think it's important to give deference to 300th Anniversary Committee and the group charged with studying which one seems to be best for the Village Green and what signifies the best message here. So I'm all aboard for this.
Is that a motion? I'll second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, the motion passes. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you very much.
All right, that's going to bring us to item G, a resolution authorizing the town clerk to advertise for order of notice, a public hearing to consider proposed amendments to the Town Code, Chapter 17, Taxation, Article 3, Property Tax Exemptions for Elderly Persons as follows. Section 17-44, Amount of Exemption, Filing of Applications. Subsection A. Do I hear a motion on this item?
Motion to approve item 13G.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes. So I looked at the schedule and just mark, one sec. Careful. So a couple of years ago, the council, there was a number of increments, and we collapsed one, and I would like to propose that we do that again. I don't know what the implications are, but I would like to know if we just dropped, if we went from 0 to 23,758, just dropped the bottom one off, what would be the implications of that? How many?
So maybe you can be
Potential.
prepared to
Yes.
discuss that at the public hearing at the next meeting?
Thank you,
Mark?
Rory.
Yes.
So just having less sections. That's not the right word.
I believe we also, didn't we, last time we voted on this, didn't we discuss increasing those rates in accordance with inflation plus the 5%? Am I making that up?
We talked about it, and it went up. It follows
Yeah.
Social Security.
Okay.
So nobody drops.
Yes.
Oh.
I just want to make sure that that's,
I proposed an increase for the tax credits
Okay.
and also the income
Yep.
in the memo.
excellent.
So as far as the increase for the income, it was 4.5%. That's what the number's based on, and 7% for the tax credits based on the CPI right now. It's a measurement of inflation. There's a lot of different ways to explain it, but that pretty much summarizes it. But yes, both increases are in these numbers. So obviously, if there's any recommendations or suggestions, I can come up with different scenarios for the council. That's no problem at all. This was just an introduction as to, based on, I know there's been adjustments in the past, and obviously it's been part of the objectives for the council. So we just wanted to make sure as part of the annual review that we did give you some type of example as far as an increase in both the tax credits and for the income.
One thing that I am trying to understand is how we compare to other towns, specifically like North Kingstown, because they do 180% or 200% of the federal poverty guidelines, and it's really hard to compare how we do it compared to how they do it. And I just want to be sure that we're sort of, being fair to everybody. And if you could offer some, elucidate for me how, and how we sort of compare on the same scale. I don't know if that's too difficult to ask or if I'm making myself clear, but as a non-accounting person looking at like the way other towns do it, it's pretty confusing.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I think, every city or town, in Cranston, when I was the assessor, we had a tax freeze program. So it was a little different as far as, how the income was calculated as to what you're saying. But that's definitely something I can research for you. I'm not familiar with North Kingston's program. But over time, a lot of these ordinances started many years ago. And some have evolved, some haven't. So it's definitely a great question, but it's something I would have to research, and I can definitely do that. That's not a problem. I think what you're asking is how did we come up with these income brackets as compared to, say, North Kingston with theirs, when they're based on more of, it sounds like a poverty index or
Right.
some type of published type income that, there's a definition behind it.
Right.
Is that what you're asking, Councilwoman?
Yes, yeah, I would just like to understand it better. And then they also give the tax credits differently, the amount of exemption or tax credits. I just have been trying to figure this out sort of in advance of this, and it's very difficult to understand. But yes, that's what I'd like to understand a little bit more.
I can definitely research that for you.
Thank you.
So what was helpful to me when I got onto the council was to ask who takes advantage of this, how many people in each income bracket, so you can see where, how many and where the need is. So like who's in the lowest bracket, how many are taking advantage of it at the highest bracket. It's just helpful to see who gets what. That
Right.
might be helpful to you.
Yeah, I would love to see something like that.
Is that something that you could do easily? I think it's, 7 homes were in the lowest income bracket, 16 were in this one.
If it was in my memo, I think, from what you're, if I understand your question, Councilwoman.
Yeah, I don't know if I saw your memo, so I apologize.
That's okay.
Just want to note that the tax assessor put a lot of work into this. And knowing how you would want this to be, he cast a wide net. And he wanted to include as many people as he could. That's why he used that
great.
higher number. He did not want to exclude anyone that's eligible now because they got a slight raise in their Social Security, but
Oh, great.
we can look at, but looking at this plan, this looks pretty good. I mean, whoever thought of this years ago really put a lot of thought into this as well, so, but we can discuss that at the public hearing.
So, Councilwoman, what was given to you is, it's not precise because we do abatements based on late filers, so those numbers aren't exact, but they're pretty close to the amount of participants right now. But that in front of you, we broke down, I think what Councilwoman Bergner was saying was how many participants fall into which brackets based on the credits and the income. So that little chart right there will, shows you that. I know it's small print, and we can definitely, I'm sure, get a copy of that to you. But is that something that?
That's exactly, I didn't open the memo, I apologize.
Okay, no, it's okay. It's all right.
I didn't see this either. So, yeah, this is very useful.
And so by removing the bottom one, Patty, you're bringing 15 people, additional 15 people, get a little bit more. You're benefiting the next.
Right.
All right, thank you, Mark.
Thank you so much for all that work.
No, that's no problem. So I think, so the suggestion is to combine the lowest two?
Well, we're gonna take up this as it is on the agenda, and
Okay.
then the possibility of that will be contemplated at the next meeting during the public hearing.
Understood. Okay, I just didn't know if you needed me to do anything else right now.
Nope.
Just be
Okay,
prepared to discuss that at the next meeting.
I
if
got
that
you.
happens.
Okay,
We're all leaning that way.
okay, all right.
All right, so we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. Thank you, Mark.
All right, thank you very much.
It's going to bring us to item H, a resolution authorizing the town clerk to advertise for order of notice of public hearing relative to a proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance as follows. Article 5, supplementary regulations, Section 502.7, cottage community, subsection M, sunset provision, amended to reflect the provisions of Section 502.7 of this zoning ordinance shall expire as of 12 midnight on March 1, 2025, unless renewed by the town council in the same manner as the enactment of a new ordinance.
Is that just,
It's just a
second?
notice, motion to approve 13H.
That's just something that we had a sunset in and we're just extending it again? Okay.
We have to do it, or else it'll expire.
If we don't undo that, yeah. And most likely, when you see it, it's going to be, it's going to have some retroactive language in it, because you won't be hearing this until a
Yeah.
meeting later in March, yeah.
Right. Okay, thank
All
you.
right.
March 13th.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, this motion passes. It's going to bring us to the end here.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? You sure? You guys ready? All right. Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, everyone, for coming, and see you next time.